What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show on another Tuesday. I think I'm a little bit of trouble. I'm already like today kind of started where I'm really looking forward to fall, and the weather cooperated, and I'm going to be really disappointed about a week when it's like 98 degrees again. I know it's going to happen because Starbucks gives like, here's the fall menu. And I'm like, oh man. And then I'm like, wait a minute. September sometimes is hotter than even July. This is not going to be good for my ability. But we are getting close to fall, even though it's just still summer. But we got some interesting topics to go over tonight, including we're going to talk about Spider-Man. It did okay at the box office. I think it might eke out a profit. We'll see how that does. We got some D23 predictions that we're going to see what come to fruition here in a couple of weeks. And then we're also going to talk about some interesting moves with DeMauro. Like we were talking about, a couple when he took over. Is he going to come out the gate really strong? I think we're kind of seeing this strategy, more of a slow burn of some stuff that is going on, and whatever else pops up. Who knows what the chat's got, everybody? But thank you guys for being here. And before we get going and say hi to the chat here, we got Kiki and Luca, Mr. Seymour Duck. We got Theme Park Conductor, Juliet. We got Ben Kazuto. I think I got that right. Zakuto, excuse me. Theme Park Assemble. Lovely Alia Vlogs. I think if I got that wrong, I apologize. We got Stu, my Rick, and many more of you people. So thank you guys all for being here. Appreciate you. And we'll introduce everybody and we'll get into our topics. So Mr. Orange Grove 55, as usual, thank you for being here. Where can everybody find you out there on the lovely and never controversial internet?
Yeah, never controversial, always peaceful on the internet, right? Always peaceful. But yeah, no, thank you for having me on. Appreciate you fine fellas and everybody in the chat. Ill Magic, Kiki and Luca, Juliet, Theme Park Conductor, Stu, Myrick, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. You can find me right here on YouTube talking all this nerdy goodness with these fine fellas all the time. Theme parks, studio, corporate. We got a big corporate day tomorrow, actually.
We do.
Disney, dude, the earnings call. That's like, woo, let's do it. But yeah, you can find me right here on Orange Grove 55 YouTube, also on X, Orange Grove 55, and on Instagram, Orange Grove 55. And big shout out to Jared for always being an amazing host. There we go.
I do my best. I try not to burn the house down while I'm here, so we'll see. That's a win in my book if everything's still there when the live stream is done there. But we also have Mr. Vash Sky as well. He is off camera. We're gonna see his icon here, his lovely logo. Vash is here, I assure you. He's not a voice modulator. Vash, thanks for being here. And where can I find you out there?
Voice modulator.
Yeah, we got the voice modulator for sure.
Did Soundwave arrive? Oh, man.
Oh, we got it right here. Thank you so much for having me on, Jared. OG, a pleasure, Jabberwocky. Welcome to the show right here. Yes, Vash Sky Parkcast is where you can find me. It's kind of interesting because tomorrow we're actually going to have some adjusted scheduling, given that the earnings call is that morning, and we want to make way for our friends at Valiant Renegade and Midnight's Edge and a whole lot more. So we're going to go live at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, talking all about the earnings call, some extended theme park coverage there. Thursday's show should go on as scheduled usually, so 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, it should be a great week of content over here in the Vash Guy Parkcast and at Jared and OG's channels as well. Thank you all.
Absolutely. And yeah, that'll be interesting tomorrow with the earnings call. I think everybody's very curious how that's going to be. But yeah, we will be talking about that at length tomorrow. But tomorrow's already a busy day. I think I have 3 or 4 different instances of talking about it. So I'll be well versed in the Disney earnings calls, probably much more than I ever thought I would be in my YouTube, I guess, career. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Anyways, we are also joined for the first time on the show, Mr. Joe Jabberwocky. Thank you for being here. He was just on with Orange Grove 55 just the other day, and OG recommended him come on. And I was like, you know what? If you're a friend of OG, you're a friend of mine. So welcome to the show, and let everybody know kind of what are you into, and what are you looking to what are you looking forward to maybe?
I think I could say I'm pretty much an Orange Grove 55 dweller right now. I do some content with OG. I've done a show with him and Theme Park Conductor already. I watch these guys. I watch your show all the time, Jared. I'd have to say, I guess parks are my big thing, but also Marvel. I love Marvel stuff. I love Star Wars stuff, the movies in general, Disney Plus, all that. I just love the opportunity to get to talk with you fine fellas.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for thanks for watching all the content. We appreciate it. Now, are you West Coast or East Coast?
Oh, I am very much East Coast.
Okay. All right. Well, we got more East Coast flavor. All right. All right. All right. OG knew what he was doing. He knew. He knew.
I mean, hey, I am very much West Coast.
Woke up and looking for.
But I love my East Coasters, so you know.
See, if this show was around in the '90s, we would have squashed that East Coast West Coast beef. They'd have been like, they can get along. They're good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I'm a West Coaster, but I'm East Coast adjacent, right? I mean,
That's true. That's true. That's true. I don't know if I'm West Coast adjacent, but I feel like I've been to Cali and out there. I enjoy the weather. It's nice out there. I haven't. I think we're gonna go next year, but I haven't been in a hot minute out to Cali. But your guys' weather is pretty nice. I will always give that up because it's better than Florida's weather sometimes. In the winter, it's great here. In the summertime, you just deal with the heat. But all right, well, let's get into. Well, actually, before we get started, we do have a super chat here. We got a couple of things. Let me get to those. We got a 2 from Ill Magic 94. Thank you, Ill Magic. It says, "Evening, fellas. How is it going?" And we also have a gifted Orange Grove 55 membership from Kiki and Luca. Thank you for that very, very much. All right, let's get into our first topic, which we're going to talk about this little movie that, you know, it's doing okay at the box office. It's been out for less than a week, and it's already hit $1 billion, which is Spider-Man Brand New Day. Globally, this thing actually lived up to the expectations of what some people were projecting, and I was like, there's no way, and it actually went above it. So it hits $1 billion globally, was second fastest pace ever. And apparently, oh, there we go. So I think domestically, it has, I think it is $360 million domestically. And it says here that it pushed in-game 357 million sum down to second place, although its global opening total remained ahead of the $932 million that Spidey collected worldwide. Obviously, huge hit. I didn't think I'd ever see anything top in-game and the hype that was. Now, I have seen this movie, as has Joe. Vash and OG have not. So we're not going to go any spoilers here or anything like that. I will simply say this. I really enjoyed this movie. I was surprised at how good this movie was. It has its issues somewhat in the third act, I would say, but they're not movie-breaking issues, and everything else being around it is so much fun that you kind of are willing to overlook some of the issues that are there, because there are some stuff there, but this was the best from Tom Holland. Like I think in my opinion, he was an okay Spider-Man. I didn't hate him. I didn't love him. But in this one, to me, he has easily cemented himself as like number 2 behind Tobey. And I think if I were to put this movie where it ranks right now, it is somewhere between 2 or 3 all-time Spidey movies to me. I don't think you're ever going to beat Spider-Man 2. You can have a conversation maybe about Spider-Man 1. But this one is easily the best one that they've done since Marvel has had Tom Holland in here. And I don't hate the Amazing Spider-Man movies as much as some people do. They're not great movies, but I really did enjoy Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Yes. But I do think that Tom Holland's in this movie was just another level.
Well, and it's interesting. I did a video with Mr. who's in the chat, Mr. Seymour Duck. Big shout out to Mr. Duck and our good friend Tones Poppy. And we talked about the box office, and Tones brought up a great point where obviously, you know, this movie's getting great word of mouth. It's a really, really good movie. From everyone I've talked to, really, really enjoys it. But there is a doomsday part of this equation here, which could be helping the box office for this movie, where people, and this was Tone's point, where people are going to see this because it feels like the lead up to Doomsday.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if I agree with that. Doomsday is playing a role with this.
Yeah.
But the lack of lead up, like the other Avengers movies, we've seen a big build up to those movies typically.
Right.
This one is kind of like it's going to take place after Endgame, and now we're just going to throw you in here. So like this is a little bit maybe for the audience, but to be honest, in this movie, there's really nothing outside of there is an end credit scene way afterwards that kind of alludes to very vaguely, I would say, to Secret Wars, because Tom Holland is not going to be in Doomsday. He's going to be in Secret Wars. Maybe a little. I think if anything, this movie's success is going to help Doomsday. I don't know how much Doomsday is helping this movie. And you have to remember too, Spider-Man is the biggest comic book hero out there. Like he always has been from everything. And I think it does show you when you do one of these characters right. And Tom Holland even had comments about he really went in and found all the things that people were complaining about the other movies. you could easily tell some of the combat scenes, which this thing has great content or great combat. Like the combat in here is awesome. The suit is practical. There's no CGI of the suit, at least for the most part. You can tell they took elements from the Spider-Man video games and put them into the combat, which I thought was cool. So I think that there might be a little bit there, but I don't think there is that much considering where Marvel kind of is right now, and there really hasn't been a lead up to this. But this definitely is going to help Doomsday, undoubtedly. But Joe, you did see what do you think about the movie?
Yeah, I agree. I think that the good thing for Marvel, in my opinion, is this movie is as impressive as it is. Like, if they made this movie and this stunk, that to me could have impacted, the debut of Doomsday in the theaters. But this movie was fantastic. And it's like I had said earlier when we were talking before the show had started. You have such an interesting mix of characters in this movie, and I feel like they did each character right in many ways. Like, they didn't overuse some of the characters, they didn't underuse other characters. I just feel like it was such a good mix, of all these story threads. And I don't want to. I have to keep reminding myself I can't give anything away here in case people in the chat have not seen this yet. But like, when I first saw the previews, I was like, man, how are they going to fit Punisher in here? And like, what does Banner and the Hulk have to do with anything? Like, and some of the other things that happened in the movie, I just could not see it. And then I go and sit through this. I went with my daughter. She loves Marvel, and when this movie ended, we were just like, holy cow! I can't. It was surprisingly great. I'm not even gonna say good. Like, it was surprisingly great to us. I have never been a huge Spider-Man guy either. Like, I think everybody likes Marvel, likes Spider-Man to a degree. But like, I've always been a big like Captain America, Winter Soldier. Like, there's other characters that I've really appreciated. This is the first time I got to say I would be putting Spider-Man up pretty high on the list of Marvel films. There's 38 of them now, I think. And that this one was this impressive, I'm just like, holy cow. And I do agree. When you say, Jared, when you say Spider-Man 2, I'm assuming you mean Dr. Octopus and Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, Toby.
Yes, 100%, man. That is still my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. But this one is definitely up there.
I mean, Spider-Man 2 is one of those movies. It's not even just a great comic book movie. It's a great movie. I mean, there's people that argue it's almost a perfect movie. It is really when you go back and watch it, it even holds up to today's standards of CGI and stuff. And like, some of those fight scenes, like in Spider-Man 1, the fight scene with Green Goblin is brutal. There are some cool stuff in those original ones. But Vash, I know you haven't seen it, but what are your thoughts on the box office performance and what this might mean for Marvel and like Doomsday as we get on toward that?
Yeah, you got to be really happy that a Marvel product has really superseded expectations. So many of them have fallen up short, especially following the ginormous shoes of and shadow cast by Endgame. A lot of people not nearly as resonant, I guess, concerning Marvel IP, Marvel products. We've had a couple of hits, but just nothing has really captured the imagination quite like the MCU's heyday. So to have something like this, I understand you have Sony involved heavily in this, but to have this pop off as big as it has is a real testament to Spider-Man himself, and maybe equating that to the fervor with the continuation of the MCU. Probably. You do have a lot of MCU incorporation here with Bruce Banner, with Frank Thomas, Frank Castle / Punisher.
You got the 9 old men in there, huh, man?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. I got Disney on the brain, I suppose. So, and obviously Tom Holland's Spider-Man. You got some incorporation there, but I understand Sony. Still, though, and as Jabberwocky was pointing out, to have that many characters be successfully incorporated into a film like this, it's a very tough feat. It's very difficult to actually do that, and to do that well. I think that's what maybe undid Spider-Man 3. A lot of people said, "Hey, you're just introducing too much. You're just playing too much. You're just incorporating too many elements." Versus this, it looks like they had so much to incorporate, so much to integrate, and they were able to do it successfully. So, job well done by the filmmakers, because that's not an easy task. I'll say this too, there was a lot of hype going into this film, I think partially off of those Glasgow behind the scenes kind of, amateur social media videos that were making their way out there in 2025. I remember covering it at the time, and it was just everywhere. It just flooded social media. I think that built a lot of anticipation, a lot of hype for the release of this film, because some of the footage is absolutely incredible just by itself, and we haven't manipulated it with CGI or anything else. So I think that kind of built a little bit of anticipation for all of this. Spider-Man is the number one character for Marvel, always has been, especially from a consumer product standpoint, which consumer products is the name of the game today, I suppose. So I'm not as shocked that this did as well as it has, but it is very surprising to see this. We're close to $1 billion on first weekend. You're at profitability first weekend, which when was the last time we heard that connected to anything regarding Disney, Marvel? That's just kind of unheard of, especially in the modern era for sure. So job well done to everybody involved right here. And like I was saying before, this could equate to momentum for Doomsday. It could.
Yeah.
But I do agree with Jared, though. That's a little undercut by the fact that Spider-Man isn't going to be fully incorporated in Doomsday as much as he will be in Secret Wars.
Well, and this is one thing that I think Seymour brought this up when I did my video with him and Tones last night. The IMAX for this film doesn't debut until the end of the week.
Right.
So I think we're going to see a very small drop off from weekend to weekend, because people are going to go check this thing out now in IMAX this upcoming weekend. It'll probably drop off, but you're not going to see no 60% drop off. I can tell you that right now.
The drop off's gonna be interesting because normally it's pretty norm for comic book movies to at least have like a 40% drop off in the second weekend. I don't think you see it that high because the word of mouth on this is great, and it does go to show you as well. You want to talk about comic book movie fatigue? On some level, it's true, but I think it's more or less bad comic book movie fatigue. Like we've seen the peak of the MCU. And then off of that, we've seen most of the stuff that's kind of hit. I mean, No Way Home was another big one when you had incorporated with all the Spider-Men that have been out there. That was a huge hit. And you've had some little things here and there. For the most part, mostly misses that's been coming from Marvel lately. So that even adds another wrinkle into this, is why I wasn't expecting this, because the same thing is like all these characters in here. Like, is this going to be a Spider-Man movie, or is this much more? Like, I like Civil War. Not as much as most people do, like Captain America Civil War, but I would argue that's not as much of a Captain America story as it is like an Avengers light story in many ways.
Yeah.
This is through and through a Spider-Man movie. The other characters that are in this movie aid to the story and kind of have these elements of Peter and what he's going through in the movie. And I will just simply say, I also love the Punisher. I also love Hulk. And there is a scene in this movie where I was a giddy child. Whenever I saw I'm not going to spoil it, but somebody does a thing and he says a thing, and I was like, oh, and they right the wrong that they did, where if you remember the last time we saw Hulk, he got the brakes beat off him by Thanos in Infinity War, and never got a redemption part in Endgame, which I had a lot of problems with, and they finally learned what people want from the Hulk, I think.
And then they stuck him on She-Hulk. I mean,
yeah,
I was just like that. I agree with you. I know exactly what you're talking about. That the part of the movie.
Oh god,
that was another thing that was wonderful to see Hulk the way that you want to see him.
Yes,
the way he should be. I'm just going to add two things to this, and the first thing I'm going to say is this was more of a grounded movie.
Yes,
I think one of the things that real diehard Marvel fans like Kevin Feige thinks that he can choose almost any storyline he wants, because he obviously was an avid comic book fan when he was growing up, and he could take Kang the Conqueror and have this big multiverse, very confusing phase to the Marvel saga. I disagreed with that from the start. And I always
was never a great villain either in the comics. No, he was always like okay, but he never was like a Thanos level either.
And they started going cosmic with a lot of their characters. And again, I feel like the more you go away from the more grounded stories, the less casual fans you're going to lose casual fans. Yeah. I just think They like this. This takes place in a city that we know. It's a a very young character. He's still, I mean, I think they're like 21 now, 22. They're young. They're
somewhere around that
young
22,
adults.
23. Yeah.
But I think, and bear with me here, I think that one of the reasons why this movie is so popular, I say it's kind of like the Titanic effect, that the Titanic movie, James Cameron, that was a big disaster movie. Lots of big special effects. I could rewatch the last hour of that movie over and over again. That was so well put together. But there's one thing that movie had that drew people to that like moth to a flame. And that was two young, star-crossed characters that were in love in a very desperate situation. I think you have a whole percentage of an audience that loves to see that. And they will go back again and again and watch that. And I think you have some of that. You have Zendaya and Tom Holland, who are a thing off camera. And now there are these two characters that have had this like story arc going on through the last three movies into this one. And I think that draws a certain part of the population in to see this movie, even amongst all the other crazy stuff that's going on in this movie.
There probably is a pretty good argument there of the youth really being drawn to that. I can't speak to that. I'm just into it because of Spider-Man, but there probably is an element to that of like some of the Gen Zers are like, Tom and Zendaya are like a thing and they go see it for that. And there are moments in this movie. And it honestly, I think them actually being in a relationship off screen really added some elements to the performance on screen, because there were some emotional beats in this movie. And I wish I could tell you. I'm going to do a live stream. At the very least, it's going to be on Friday where we talk about this with some people. But there are some moments in this where it's like heartbreaking. And Tom, like you get that emotion from him, like his world is crushed. And I think a lot of it is because he's playing opposite Zendaya. I do think that is an element to this. Now, one thing I will also point out, you're completely right. I think this is if this movie would have came out after Endgame, Marvel would be in a much better place, because what they used to do in the comics, when they went cosmic and they got real big, and then you're like, where are you going to go with this? They bring it back local. They go wide, come back in. And they messed that up after Endgame, and it gave nobody an on-ramp to get on, because if you want to catch up, you got 40 movies to watch. And you're like, well, I don't want homework. And there was it just kept going and kept getting weirder. Like, this does ground it. Although the next movie with Doomsday is not going to be grounded. That is going to be a very cosmic thing. So you're going to very quickly yank yourself out of this grounded, localized story. But Vash, did you have a point you're going to make?
I was just going to talk about the homework problem, because this didn't suffer from the homework trepidation that Marvel discussed when talking about these movies, right? I mean, even though it did incorporate so many elements of the extended MCU and even some of the television stuff with Frank Castle and Punisher, people were still interested, and they still came away with this movie feeling really good about it, right? A cinema score, I do believe, and again, without full PLF support is just insane. So to achieve these numbers and to achieve this result right here, again, it just shows you it doesn't really matter about the homework, as long as the individual movie is good. And that will, like at the MCU speak, will inspire people to actually see that content, to know more about the characters actually featured and the storylines that actually play out. But Jabberwocky, please, you were going to say.
Oh, I think one thing that Doomsday has going for it, even though you're now talking like Jared had said, this big, they are going back out like cosmic level here with some of the characters that you have. But the one other element that I think a lot of Marvel fans just rabidly love watching are the heroes fighting each other. I think they absolutely love that. Tell me you wouldn't love a movie where the Hulk and Thor just go at it like for 45, just absolutely beat the what out of each other. Like, I just think that's why Civil War was so popular. That movie. I mean, that
Deadpool Wolverine's the same thing. That wasn't running a really good movie. It's just people wanted to see Wolverine and Deadpool fight each other the whole time. That's all they wanted.
Partially why the Avengers worked back in the day, back in 2012.
Yeah.
And another thing too, I'm glad you guys brought up that whole grounded thing, because I think we're going to see more of that going forward. And the reason why I say that, and Jared, to your point, you brought this up many, many times over many, many shows, where you heard like Hollywood, once the superhero like fad kind of wanes, they're like itching to like stop making them as much because they're so expensive. Well, anything cosmic is going to cost you a huge arm and a leg with all the CGI and all that stuff you got to do.
True.
You do more grounded stories like in New York City or like, like Daredevil stuff, right? It's not going to be as expensive. I mean, and all these studios, including Disney, they're looking for ways to get leaner, especially Disney. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, after these movies like Dial of Destiny, a lot of these movies had massive bloated budgets. They're gonna want to lean those budgets out, and you do that with more grounded stories. So it's good for them on the money side. It's also good for us as the fans, because I think the grounded stories just feel better anyway. I've always liked more grounded stuff. They lost me with all that, and I know this is a sensitive topic, and I'm not saying this because of anything political, but like the Captain Marvel stuff. It was like she was so out there, right? And I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't get into it. Besides her and her whole thing, it was just all that cosmic-y stuff. You just kind of get pulled out of that, right?
Well, they also tried to force her down your throat because you built up the MCU with these characters, and all of a sudden you get to Infinity War, and it's like, actually, she's really super powerful and cool. Here you go. And everyone's like, well, hold on a second. Like, you just can't throw this character in the midst of all of this, and we're supposed to just be like, yeah, she's as great as Thor or something. So, and her off camera didn't help anything either, some of her comments that she made. But I think the thing that is so interesting about this is, in Tom Holland's own words, he got feedback about the complaints people had. And this is what I've been screaming about for years. If you give people what they want, you will make money. And I will argue, by the way, now Marvel and Disney only get 25% of this cut because of the deal they have with Sony. So Sony's making a ton of money off this. They're probably going to make more money off this movie than they are on Doomsday, because I don't think they've even said Doomsday is not even really meant to be profitable. They're trying to get people back into the MCU, and that budget, from what I've heard, is just astronomical. Then they may eke out a profit off of that, but I think there's a good chance this one makes more money. But what's really interesting is why Spider-Man is as popular as he is, because even though he's a superhero, you can relate to him, because at least in the comics, his life kind of sucks outside of being Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man, he has everything else that sucks. He's broke. He can't hold a job. He's got his girl. At least that's what they typically did. But everything else around him is always falling apart. And I think people can relate to that. And it's like, it's not angsty as much as it is just like a kid growing up into a man with powers, and you kind of go with that journey with him. So he's very relatable compared to some other characters that are out there. And he's got a good heart and things. So he's always been popular. You stick him in a movie that gives him justice, and you're just seeing the reaping of the reward of that. And I think this should be a lesson. Listen to the criticisms. Like, you're not going to get it perfect, but if you try, which they clearly did in this movie, because there were moments in here when I first saw there's a character that's like a police chief. She pops on screen, and I was like, oh, here we go. It's going to be girl boss time. And they didn't. They did not. She was really good, and she was more or less like his motherly figure in this movie, really cared. So, like, they just did a really good job of balancing it all out, clearly hearing the feedback. And this movie is going to make $2 billion plus probably at the end of the day.
I'll add something to that too. The one thing we've been all dancing around, and I have to continue dancing around because the spoiler territory, the casting of Sadie Sink, that to me was genius. Whatever. Yeah. Well, see, I can't really say. So yeah, I'm kind of stuck. I just can't. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm just, in my opinion, I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to leave it at that. I think there is
Jean Grey's
a promise there.
Yeah, I'm not against it. We'll see how that continues to flesh out. The issues I have with this movie do revolve around her character, I will say, and I can't get into it because that'll give spoilers away. But
yeah, no.
Any of the issues I do have revolve around this third act of the movie, which involves her. It kind of does. Some people are describing it as two different movies. I don't think that's quite the case, but it definitely does have a change of pace and kind of what's going on in that third act. But even with those issues, everything else going on was just so much fun. And this is the most comic booky feeling movie in that you are just in this world. And in Spider-Man's world, he has a rogues gallery of villains, and other heroes are in that world. So if you're in his world, all of a sudden he's fighting Tombstone. And there's a little montage clip of like some of these really famous Spider-Man covers. If you knew what to look for, they were there. Like Fighting the Hand, Fighting Tombstone, some of these other like Scorpion. But like these characters are in that world. And in his world, Frank Castle's there too. And so is Bruce Banner. And so it made sense in the way they did it. It wasn't a jumbled mess. It made sense, and they weren't on screen too long. They didn't eat up too much of the story. It was just really well balanced. And I wasn't expecting that because the director of this had directed Shang-Chi, which I can't say was great. And he also had directed Wonder Man, which I haven't seen, but I've heard from people that said that was actually a really good show on Disney Plus. No, but he pulled this off. He did really well. And I think Tom Holland, even he's alluded to maybe wanting to walk away from Spider-Man. There is no way they're going to let him walk away after making this much money. They will pay him RDJ money to come back as Spider-Man at this point.
God, yeah.
Yep.
And he's going to play Spider-Man until he's like 57 at this point.
Does anybody know? You're muted, I think.
Nope, you're muted still.
Nope, you're still muted.
It's on StreamYard side.
Oh, there we go. You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Real quick, I wanted to, maybe I'm jumping the gun here a little bit. Well, actually, Jabberwocky, go ahead, because my comment might actually tie into our next topic a little bit. It's like Spider-Man, but kind of our next topic. So go ahead and finish your point, brother.
You know what? I'm an old man. I can't remember the point I was just about to make. So you just go ahead and say what you were going to say.
Okay. Well,
oh, you know what? No, I did remember. I don't know if you guys know the answer to this question. Was Tom Holland a producer on this movie?
I think I know he had writing credits. I don't know if he was a producer or not, but he might be.
I'm wondering if because like I can't remember which one of you brought up the point that he listened to criticisms. And if he's playing the role of a producer now in some of these movies, that really puts him in a position where he could actually, he could take those criticisms and that could affect how the story is developed or how the characters play out, how they develop through the movie and things like that. Like I like hearing that, listen, like you said, listen to the criticism and give these people what they want. They will give you their money.
Yeah.
Don't get overly creative. I hate when studios overthink things. That drives me insane. The answers sometimes are just so easily right there, and they just go right past it. And you're like,
especially with these comic books that have successful story runs. I looked it up real quick. So Tom Holland does not have an official producer credit, but he took on a more hands-on producer-like role during development.
Okay.
So I don't think he was an official producer, but he had even spoken about how he was kind of more like he definitely took some hands-on approach. He clearly played the video games. You guys haven't played the Spider-Man video games. They're fantastic. And there was a lot of combat elements pulled directly from that. There was the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, I've seen that before. That was from the game. And I heard later on, he'd even said like they took some stuff from the games too. So it was just very well done. I don't know if they can replicate it again. Maybe this sets really bad expectations going forward, but whatever the ingredients were, they pulled it off with this one. And personally, I mean, I would give this out of 10. Honestly, I give it like a 9. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It has a few issues, but again, I'm willing to overlook it with how much fun it is. And I want to go see it again. And I haven't seen a movie 2 times because I wanted to see it for probably, I think I saw Infinity War twice, but that was the last time, I will say.
Well, I want to ask you guys, because this kind of ties into one of the topics we're going to discuss today. Now, I know that Spider-Man, you can't really do anything in Florida, but we have the international parks, and we have already a Spider-Man presence out here in California. I was talking in the group chat a little bit about it today, actually, but like, I wonder what this because this isn't like a normal hit movie. Like this movie is doing numbers that's pretty insane. Mm-hmm. Do you think we will see? And I don't necessarily think. I mean, we'll see like another Spider-Man ride or something come to California. I don't think it'll be crazy like that. But do you feel like maybe they'll have like some updates to the Web Slingers attraction where they change out like the kind of like what they did for Smuggler's Run, where they change out the environments and things like that, because this movie is doing $100 and those are, that whole ride is screen like Midway Mania. You can swap those scenes out. Do you guys think that's a possibility? I mean, maybe we'll see that.
It's definitely possible. I can't. I know a lot of people pan that ride. I've never ridden it, so I can't speak to that. They would kind of be dumb not to do something with this. As big of a hit as this is, if you did some sort of update to this and include some of this stuff, like it can't hurt anything. And it really probably wouldn't be that difficult with that type of ride of just like overlaying something there. But I think a lot of these rides could benefit from some variable scenes, like Smuggler's Run, like Star Tours, where you kind of have different things in there. It would be a draw to have at this point, this movie had a brand new day overlay on this ride. I feel like you instantly would probably double the wait times on this thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, it would be crazy.
You could put a scene in there where you have to web the Hulk down.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
I wonder.
I wish I could talk about that scene. Oh my gosh, I could spend like 30 minutes breaking down that scene and why it's so cool and all the different elements into it. It's you definitely could do that. Undoubtedly, you could.
I wonder if there's a rights issue though, because this is technically Sony's Spider-Man, and this is their movie, and to utilize any assets or storylines from it might become a potential issue for Disney using them in the parks. I don't know that for sure, but I do wonder why we haven't seen that before. That might be part of it.
And that might be why they didn't go with like in our web slingers. To your point, Vash, we don't have a Spidey villain in there. They created the Spider-Bot storyline,
correct?
Which is probably how they kind of skirt the legalities a little bit, right?
Right, and we didn't see any integration with No Way Home, even though that was a huge, tremendous success. And I do believe Spider-Man Web Slingers was up and running while that movie was in theaters. So it's kind of like, if we see the integration and incorporation of so many elements within the Star Wars franchise, as we have with Mandalorian and Grogu obviously being part of that up into Smuggler's Run, you kind of do ask yourself, well, why haven't we necessarily seen that in the parks with this regarding this specific attraction? Because we've seen some stuff, even like Marvel, for example, the MCU for a while there. Marvel was paying all kinds of money to get every single character attached to any single Marvel film or MCU film that would come out, incorporating the Avengers Campus. So the next logical question coming from that is, why haven't we seen that? And that might be why.
That could be it. I could see that. And really what makes the Spider-Man ride so great in the Marvel Superhero Island and Islands of Adventure is because it has the rogues gallery of his villains. Like they use all those awesome, like Doc Ock and all these characters. Like it's so cool. And like you were saying, the villain in that ride is like the Spider-Bot thing. You're like, you have all these. He probably has the best rogues gallery of villains that's ever been. And you don't even use it on the ride. It could be a rights issue. It wouldn't shock me if that's part of the deal. That is very interesting. And if anybody's thinking at this point that Sony's ever going to sell those rights to Marvel for the movies, you are out of your mind.
Not anytime soon. That's for dang sure. No way.
I would venture a guess if they did go to buy this, it would cost them more for Spider-Man than they paid for the whole of Marvel back when they bought it for $4 billion.
Yeah. Dang, Zendaya looks good there. Damn, dude.
Honestly, Zendaya. I'm not a Zendaya hater. I don't love her. I know people are kind of tired of Zendaya. She was really good in this movie.
She's great.
She was very good.
I love her and I love Tom and I love them together. I think they're fantastic. And I think you guys are right. They are a power couple, and I think them like Jared, to your point, like just them being in this movie might have some box office pull.
It could.
They're big enough.
It could. Yeah. I think it depends on your age, probably, of if that's a pull or not, would be my guess.
Yeah.
I have a question about what you guys were talking about earlier, the Spider-Man ride and doing updates, not doing updates. The ride as it currently exists, is it super popular?
It's funny. I don't like the attraction. Actually, Jay Shear does, though, which really shocked me. That really shocked me. He loves Web Slingers. But the ride itself is not great, but the normies seem to like it. It always has a good amount of weight for it. So,
and they may not have a reason to do it if if it's got decent demand, they don't see a reason to do it necessarily.
There's always a line, and it's as Vash would say, pretty robust. With the
robust. Yeah.
Robust.
Storm Sorceress has that interesting point. She said the only reason he will not play Spider-Man until he's 90 is because he said once they have kids, he is stepping away from acting, so to be a dad. True, but if you're going to pay the man RDJ money, he'll probably come out of retirement and be like, listen, kids, I love you. You can come to set with me, but I'm going to be gone for 6 months. And then daddy's going to get a bag of money and come back to you guys. Like I could see a future where he's only playing Spider-Man. If you're really, he has talked about one to he doesn't really want to be in that Hollywood limelight, which I totally respect.
Yeah.
But I could tell if it was me and I'm making this money and it's like, listen, I'm just going to play Spider-Man and that's what I'm going to be known for throughout history. Even if he goes on to do other things, he's obviously in the Odyssey. So he's in 2 movies right now that are dominating the box office. But obviously, he is known for Spider-Man. It's that's not a bad gig. If you're just making handfuls of cash playing Spider-Man for multiple movies, I'm like, I could handle that if it was me, but I'm not Tom Holland, so I can't speak to what he may or may not do. But we also anything else you guys want to add, and then we'll move on to next story about this.
Well, I think what is it? Ilmagic 94. It's definitely time for a new Spider-Man thrill ride at Universal. They're, and I do very much appreciate the $5. Thank you so much. And evening fellas, earlier, thank you. The thing about this is they're in a holding pattern, right? They're in a old we used to call it a whole Mexican standoff where nobody can really do anything from Universal's end. They can't meaningfully or substantially change that attraction without Marvel's approval. And from Marvel's side of thing, they're not inclined to allow Universal to update that attraction.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what do you do? Unfortunately, where the Spider-Man attraction currently exists, how it exists, what actually goes on in it, all of that doesn't change until Universal either opts to say, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get rid of this entire area and end this contract, or Disney officially buys it out or something to that effect. I know that when the contract negotiations broke down last time, that's when Universal came back and said, you know what? We're going to double down on Spider-Man and redo all the projectors and redo the entire film, make it digital and so forth, and make it high def and all of that. That's where that refurbishment came from ultimately. So that's basically the only thing they do, because per the contract, they do have to maintain these things to an acceptable standard.
Yeah, I actually like that from businesses where it's like, oh, okay, that fell through. Fine, we're doubling down. I like that posture, personally speaking. But yeah, no, I think this movie is going to have massive legs, and I think $2 billion is at this point probably a given that it's going to hit that. And then we'll see what this does for Doomsday. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything, but I think Doomsday is going to be a very different movie from this. And I will say this about Doomsday is going to have a massive opening weekend undoubtedly, but if it's not a good movie, it's not going to get the word of mouth and legs, which we have seen this happen numerous times. So this movie, obviously big marketing, big character, but if the movie wasn't good, it would not be performing like this is. So I will still contend word of mouth is still the best marketing for movies that you currently have and probably will continue to have. And Doomsday better hold up to it, or it's going to that movie. I've been way more worried about Doomsday than I ever was about Spider-Man, because there's going to be, and in Secret Wars, there's so many people in those movies. Like, how are you even remotely going to tell a coherent story with, there's upwards of, some people said 30 to 40 different characters in these movies. Like, it's a massive amount of people. So,
when Spider-Man debuted, was there another big title that debuted this same weekend, or was this like the big movie?
You had the Odyssey that was still out there, but there was nothing else that really went up against this. I don't think any other studio was going to put up another movie against Spider-Man coming out this summer.
Way.
The reason I asked that is because I think, and I could be wrong about this, Doomsday is debuting the same weekend that Dune 3 is debuting.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Dune 3 got all the IMAX theaters.
Yep. Well, that's why they did the whole, the Infinity Vision is why they started that, because they weren't getting the IMAX screens. I mean, Dune, I don't know if it'll hurt it. And Dune hasn't done like big numbers at the box office. It's done pretty well. I don't know how that's going to shake out. You could have an Oppenheimer Barbie situation, maybe.
That's true.
I guess we'll see if that hurts it or not. But I do think Dune, Dune's interesting. I don't really know how that's going to shake out. It's going to be interesting to see how that performs, and with the word of mouth. And then, of course, you got Secret Wars after that. And so if some of the leaks are true about what's going on in Doomsday, I don't know if people are going to like it, but we'll see if that's even true or not. But yeah, for this movie, though, like, I think you should go see it. If you're on the fence, I think if you like Spider-Man, if you like comic book movies, you will enjoy yourself. Even if you're a fan of the comics and not the MCU, I think there's enough stuff in here from the comics where you'll be like, oh, okay, that's really cool. So I would recommend it.
And I think the lesson of the day for Marvel is, and I think they are doing this, but like, quality over quantity will win the day. Like, I think people, and I've said this about Star Wars as well, I think people like these IP. I think they do. But I think people aren't going to blindly support anything that these IP, that these franchises release, right? So, yeah, people love Marvel, but that doesn't mean they're going to go see Fantastic Four necessarily, or see these other movies. It has to be a good movie and something that people really want to see. We have a lot of options now, with streaming and what have you. They really have to sell it. So that's the lesson of the day, I think. Really, really reduce the output, which I think they are doing, and focus on quality. And I think you're golden. I think the same thing with Star Wars. You don't need to have all these Disney Plus shows and flood the market with all that stuff. Just make one really good movie every couple of years, and I think you're good to go. People want to see these. People want these franchises. They do, but you have to deliver something that's good. You can't just give them slop.
Yep, I think I completely agree, and I think that this movie alone doesn't like save the MCU. But you get 2 or 3 of these movies that do well, then you can be like, okay, the MCU is back on track. And I think this adds extra weight to Doomsday and Secret Wars, because if those do hold up and those are successful, they might have revitalized Marvel and kind of did something that Lucasfilm's never been able to do, which is actually like come back from the brink. We'll see. Obviously, this is obviously a huge win, but we'll see if they can parlay it into some future success for sure.
Yeah, and real quick too, Seymour, I want to thank you so much, brother, for being a member for 24 months. Also, a quick little programming note: Jared and I will be doing a live show tomorrow with Seymour to break down that Disney quarterly earnings call. So everyone check that out.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be a fun time.
And I'll be on with Vash talking about the same thing. So I'm gonna be everywhere talking about the Disney earnings call. I'm gonna have a thesaurus on the Disney earnings call.
3:30 p.m. Eastern, by the way.
Yeah. 3:30 Eastern, yes. Vash and Bash's live stream will happen. And one thing I'll point out, this is really about the movie as much. Tom Holland got jacked in this movie. He was always in good shape, and he had a scene where he took his shirt off, and I was like, somebody hopped on the good juice, because that dude put on some size. He had a little bit of like an upper pec shelf, which is very hard to get. I'm not accusing him of anything. I would do it, but he got in really good shape. I texted my wife from the movie. I'm like, he got jacked, and she was like, wasn't he always jacked? I'm like, wait until you see it. And because we saw it separately because we didn't anybody watch the kids. And she texted me to the movie, and she was like, you weren't kidding. And I'm like, I told you. He put on some size in this movie. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, so we do have some super chats and memberships to get. Actually, some memberships to get to here. We do have 5 gifted memberships from Greg Gungaro to Capture the Magic. Thank you, Greg. Thank you. And I did see who got those, and it was Delulu News, Salty Shambles, Shina R, Pippy Bird, and Mupty. So there you go. Congrats. Thank you very much, Greg Gregano. And I'm not sure who this was for. Is a member message. Captain Fandom Nerd says, good evening. My niece loved Spider-Man. Yes. There you go.
Thank you, Captain Fandom Nerd. Thank you.
I do think this is a movie that kids could, like, my daughter's not into it, but I think there's some heavier moments to it, but I think they're like 10 and above. It is PG-13. So like, obviously, you know, your kid, but no, I think a lot of kids could even enjoy it too. So, but all right, let's move on to talk about D23. I don't really have a story that we're going to bring up here because we're going to go into some D23 predictions, what we think is going to happen with this, given some of the, you know, recent things we've been noticing, which might parlay into our next conversation, which is about some of the changes Tomorrow is making here. So D23 starts. Hold on a sec. We have a 5 from Ill Magic real quick pertaining to Spider-Man. I'll circle back to this. Ill Magic for a 5 says, what villain from the Spidey comics that hasn't been on the screen should be the next villain in the next Spidey movie? Oh, that's a good question. I mean, Tombstone was there. I would like to see, he was in it, but I actually would like to see a Scorpion-centric one. But Kraven the Hunter would be awesome. Now, they did a Kraven the Hunter movie by Sony that they tried to do that Spider-Verse without Spider-Man, which I was like, that's a really dumb idea. But Kraven, that dude, like in the comic, that dude's legit. Rock Blazer says Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative would be awesome. Yeah, there's plenty of rogues galleries they could bring out for Spider-Man that they still haven't.
Yep.
Love Venom, love Carnage.
Dude, Venom and Venom. I thought there might be a Venom element to this movie. He was not in this one, but those are 2 characters that are sitting out there waiting for them to do a really cool story with. Yeah. So, I mean, Spider-Man outside, I think Batman and Spider-Man have the best rogues galleries of villains out there that you can make endless movies about and all this stuff. So they definitely have plenty they can work with. Or even like an update, like another version of Doc Ock, which I don't know if they will because it's going to be really hard to beat Alfred Molina's. Like that is, I don't know if you even touch it after that, to be quite honest.
He was so good as that character.
Oh, he was, and like Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin is. I don't think he even gets the credit he deserves of how he played that character, because he just that William Dafoe, like he's all halfway crazy, which is exactly what Norman Osborn is, which is this half crazy egomaniac billionaire. Just perfect. Like the scene in Spider-Man 1 where Aunt May's praying and he busts through the wall and he's like, finish it. And she's like, well, I forget part of the prayer she's saying, and he's like, "Oh, it's like horror movie stuff." You're like, "Good Lord, man!" Like there were just some awesome moments from those.
I'm
first
somewhat of a crazy man myself.
Somewhat of a scientist myself. After tomorrow, I'm somewhat of a financial earnings expert myself. If
there you go,
be doing, yeah. But talking about D23. And thank you, El Magic, for the 5. Thank you guys, everybody, for participating and those that are super chatting. Never, never expected, but always appreciated. So thank you guys very much. But yeah, we got D23 coming up in a couple of weeks, and obviously got a big parks panel. That's always what people look forward to. There is a lot of speculation about what they might announce, given the last D23. They had a bunch of the park announcements, especially for Disney World. You got those ongoing projects, and what are they going to have to reveal at D23? I'll let you guys take it away, then I'll give my predictions as well. Like OG, Vash, you guys want to go first and see what you guys are predicting for D23?
So in terms of the West Coast, I think we're going to get more detail on the current existing projects. I do believe because Jim Shull really, caused a stir with that Zootopia stuff. I think they're going to really solidify that project is still happening. So they're going to give us something, whether it be new art, maybe some kind of model to look at, something with that. Maybe more details on that Shanghai Pirates boat ride system that we're getting for that attraction. So I think we'll definitely get some fleshed out detail on that. Coco for sure. That's they're already digging the foundation for that bad boy. We'll definitely hear more on that. I'm very curious about Coco too, because it fits into a very small footprint. Is it going to be a 2-story attraction? I want to give shout out to our friend Barry Plays 28. He was talking about that in my last premiere earlier today, and I think he might be onto something with that. They might do a 2-story thing, and then we're definitely going to hear a lot about these Avengers rides. Now, with the Avengers e-ticket, I'm not going to get too much into the Kuka arm because I'm not too thrilled about that one, but we'll see. But like the Avengers e-ticket, I think people are dismissing that, and we might be surprised at how good that really is, because I've said it before. Yes, it looks like the ingredients of a Transformers type of attraction. That doesn't really mean anything though, because what I mean by that is I've said this before and I'll say it again. Small World and Pirates have the same ride system too, and they're completely different experiences. Dinosaur and Indiana Jones, completely different experiences with the same ride system. So just because you're in a scoop vehicle with screens doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a verbatim kind of thing like Transformers. I'm hearing there's going to be a King Thanos animatronic. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's real or not, but there's a lot of things in here that could change this experience from a Transformers. So I just think that people need to be a little open-minded with that one. I think that one might be a sleeper kind of hit because the expectations for that are so low. So that's pretty much DCA. I think we're going to get meat on them bones. I think we will get some Disneyland stuff though too. I think we might get announcements for maybe the Dragon coming back for Fantasmic. I can see them doing something like that. Maybe a new fireworks show, maybe a new daytime parade. I've heard rumors that maybe the electrical parade's coming back. I love that parade, but come on, let's not trot that thing out again. That would be really disappointing, I think, for D23 announcement, in my opinion. They just done it too many times. It's kind of worn out at this point. And right now we have Paint the Night, right? Like, why don't we just keep Paint the Night? Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. We might also hear some details. This one I'm a little bit iffy on, about the Eastern Gateway. I don't know if we're going to hear stuff about that because it's not really like a sexy thing. Like, oh, here's the new infrastructure and the new security gate. Yeah, I don't know if that's really a D23.
I got these metal detectors. Everybody loves it.
Woo, we love it. Look at the bridge. I don't know if we're going to get that because it's kind of a weird thing to kind of go into. Although you never know. Maybe they'll tie that into the Pandora stuff because that's part of the Pandora project. Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't think we're gonna get anything too crazy though. I think this year is gonna be a really Disney World focused kind of expo we'll get our stuff over here, but I think a lot of the bulk of it's going to be Disney World and these cruise lines. Disney's going to go nuts with the cruise lines. So,
I agree with that. I'll give you mine real quick, and then I'm going to tell my kids good night because I think they're going to go to bed, and then I'll kick it to Vash and Joe. I agree. I think Disney World, you're going to have a lot of stuff about these projects that probably like if the stuff is true about Villains Land, that they're not going in that direction that was insinuated by the rap, they're going to try and go out here and really set that record straight of what's going on here. So I don't think you're getting a lot of details, but I think you're going to get like what that land is going to be, if I were to guess. Probably a lot about obviously Tropical Americas, Monstropolis. Those are the two closest to being done. So there'll be some updates on varying levels for those things. I think there's a really good chance that if you look at not only all the refurbs that have been going on, but like Haunted Mansion just got its exterior facade redid. They're currently doing it to the Tower of Terror. I think, and they just repainted the castle. Like there's a lot of evidence that they're going in here and really trying to polish up the park while these things are being built and kind of maybe presenting. I'm not going to be shocked if they present some sort of new era of Disney World, because I think this also is not only the things they're building, but this marketing thing of going up against Universal that is continuing into market share. They've got the hot stuff going on. Epic Universe just opened. And I think they may try and cement Disney World as the like company focused park. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not saying they're going to do it. I just wouldn't be shocked given the competition with Universal. And I think they might actually introduce or say something about getting a Tomorrowland redo. I think there's a pretty good chance of a Space Mountain refurb or reimagining that they announced, because that fits into everything they've been doing as well. Maybe Figment. I don't know if I'd really put that on there too much, but I think you could see some more or less more announcements of some refurbs, because they're not going to announce new lands, because when would they even start building those? They're not even remotely done with ones they're doing right now. So I don't think that is really on the table, because you'd be announcing this is going to be done in 2040, and that's way too off to really announce anything for that. So I think those are realistic things they could do. Though that's a good question, because they've also had these blue sky ones where they got reamed for doing these blue sky events and nobody liked them. So they could do a little blue sky, but at the same time, I think they may be done with blue sky here. I don't know if you get a whole lot announcements other than the refurbs. I think the biggest one potentially in my eyes could be Space Mountain, of getting a refurb. And if they really do a reimagining of that and more or less create a new attraction out of that, I know we've talked about it in other videos as well, that could be looked at as a really headlining thing and actually giving Tomorrowland an identity. That might be your big announcement coming out of this is what we're doing. This is the vision for Tomorrowland and setting up Magic Kingdom. Maybe to really have no weak points, because I would say Tomorrowland's a weak point of Magic Kingdom. I know you said it's a weak point at Disneyland as well. Yeah. Maybe they're going to go in and try and building the things that they're currently building. It's kind of my guess.
No, great observations and predictions, Mr. Vashkai. What are you? And then we'll go to Mr. Jabberwocky.
Are we still there?
Oh yeah. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. You just fraud. I don't know if it was me or you, but Vash, what do you think?
Really interesting stuff. I do like Jared's predictions there, and OG. I think you had some great commentary as well. So I won't go too far into the kind of running over what exactly we've already heard announced and maybe getting more detail on that. I think that's pretty firm there. The other thing, though, that we're looking at here is we have 4 cruise ships that have been announced, but no details on any of them. So I think we might learn a little bit more about what their cruise line offerings are when it comes to that, because of Spider-Man's unbelievably successful debut here. Just for SEO, we might be getting more information about Shanghai's Spider-Man attraction, and maybe perhaps even Hong Kong's Spider-Man attraction as well. I think we might hear more detail when it comes to those things. Tomorrowland, I think, is going to be, there's a decent chance it could be a big one. We already know that we're getting a Carousel of Progress, redo, or update. And because of that, we know that Tomorrowland is going to be a focus. Carousel of Progress is going to be a focus. I think they've actually said that as part of the description for this whole Horizons D23 Ultimate Fan Event panel. So I think that's baked in. Will we hear an update on Space Mountain? I think it's pretty likely. I think it's certainly likely we hear an update on Autopia. and what actually is happening to Disneyland's classic, attraction there, especially regarding its electrified future. But do we, because we know that Walt Disney World is going through like a Tomorrowland mini overhaul, right? A lot of the ray gun architecture and so forth has already been taken down at Walt Disney World's Tomorrowland. Do we get maybe an update on the overall theme for both Disneyland and Disney Magic Kingdoms, I should say, with that whole thing? I think there's a good possibility we do, especially because that wall out there at Disneyland's been sitting there for 7 years? It's getting pretty embarrassing now. And if all that's true, right? Entrance stuff, Autopia stuff, Space Mountain, Carousel of Progress. Well, now you have a big old Tomorrowland section within that Horizons panel. Do we necessarily see People Mover as part of that? I think if there's any opportunity for it to come out, that would be it. So I think all of that you can add into the mix right there. OG, you referenced the Electrical Parade. I don't think we're getting a whole lot in terms of attractions announced at D23, but we're also not getting a whole lot in the lead up to the opening of Adventures Campus. I think it's still 2 years out, perhaps. In the lead up to Coco, in the lead up to Avatar. Those are going to be projects that are going to take a while. And so what do you do to fill that gap? This might be why we might be hearing about the Electrical Parade.
Interesting. Interesting. Go ahead, Vash. I'm sorry.
Because the Electrical Parade, right? It's certainly not going to take that many resources to get up and running, to get rehabilitated, and to get out there. I mean, you're talking about 70s era tech.
Right.
It's not the most ambitious parade that's ever been around there, but it does kind of fulfill this goal of let's have something for the summer. And especially if a lot of your entertainment budget is going to be absorbed by a Fantasmic overhaul. I think we are at that point where we might get a Fantasmic 3.0 because of the issues related to the Dragon, because of the issues related to show infrastructure and all of that. If all of your entertainment budget is going to be soaked up by that, it kind of makes sense that you bring out something like Electrical Parade, right? To kind of offset the crowds and have this kind of counter-programming. And if you have both of those things, you're kind of halfway to a Summer Night-tastic 2.0. People don't remember, Summer Night-tastic back in 2009 saw the refurb of Electrical Parade at DCA at that time. It saw the new, magical fireworks show.
Yeah.
And it also saw the new Fantasmic, right? With its Murphy. That was when it was introduced. Later on, you would get Fantasmic 2.0. So you're kind of almost there. If you bring out maybe a fireworks show like Magical, you put Dumbo there on the string.
Right.
And maybe bring out World of Color, the original. Well, now you have a nostalgic-filled way of getting all of those annual pass holders and magic key holders back into the park and maintaining their magic keys. I think that might be where they're going, because it wouldn't take all that much money outside of Fantasmic. That might be what we're getting. We'll see, though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's another interesting thing, and then we'll take it over to Jabberwocky. Another interesting thing that I think we might see here, and I don't know if they have the guts to do it because of what they did with the Rivers of America and that whole game they played, like with the whole by the way, like the Monday morning after the expo, right? But I'm curious with DCA. I've been saying for a long time, and I could be wrong. It's just a vibe, a feeling I'm getting. There's another shoe that's going to drop with that Pandora thing. I don't know if it's PhilharMagic. They're gonna get rid of that to kind of maybe, Bricky did a great video on that where he was saying you replace PhilharMagic with an Avatar sit down restaurant in a bar. I mean, it's you're making huge. Your ROI on that is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He made a really good point. I wouldn't be surprised if we get something like that. Maybe they don't announce the closure of PhilharMagic, but maybe it's just sort of like, here's the model of Pandora. Oh, and look, that lounge is right where PhilharMagic is, right? One of those kind of sneaky things. Hyperion as well. I'm not really that. Hyperion might be safe just because from what I understand, they utilize that for a lot of like, corporate events and like cast member stuff. So we might be okay with that. But I still feel there's something they've left out with what they're like, whether it be Philhar Magic or something when it comes to that project. And maybe we'll hear something at D23 in regards to that. Who knows? And maybe not. Because remember too, that whole back area, um, including the Uber drop-off stuff off to the right. There's like a service road, and then there's like that Uber drop-off area
Correct.
right next to Pandora. Now, initially, I was like, no, they're not going to touch that stuff. Well, after Coco, after all the rerouting they're doing over there and building this boat ride on the sidewalk, basically, I'm not so sure if they're not going to dip into that Uber stuff and
No, I think I think it's absolutely the case. I think they want that Uber stuff on the other side of Harbor. And they want
100%.
they want all of that infrastructure tied in with their parking structure, with their transportation center that they're going to build that opens up everything, including that service road, because technically you don't necessarily need to have vehicles heading to that area of the Esplanade between the harbor crossover and everything else. I think it's going to all be absorbed by that. And that might be the other shoe to drop. The other thing, too, with Philhar Magic, it's going to be interesting. I could see it being redone, but then what happens to award winners? Because I think food and beverage really likes what they get from there. I think it's like a nice prominent location for them. So does that get absorbed? Because if it does, then you have to make more money necessarily than when you were before. So that's a really interesting operations entanglement there.
That's a great point. Now, Jabberwocky, what do you think? I know you love award winners, right? That's like your
yeah. Every time I hear that,
it's a little bit of an inside joke, but we did. Joe and I did a video like 2 days ago, right?
Yeah.
And you were like, "What is award winners?" I'm like, "Oh, it's the hot dog place right there." And you're like, "What a name!" I'm like, "Dude, DCA 1.0 was wild. It was an era for sure." But Jabberwocky, what's your predictions for D23? West Coast, East Coast, all of it, whatever you got.
West Coast or East Coast, I'll start there. A little more familiar. I again, kind of echoing what Bash said. I agree with Jared's take on a lot of things. I think that there's so much happening, and the last D23 that they did, they announced these lands, but we didn't get a whole lot of detail about very much anything. We got some, concept art, one piece of concept art for Encanto, one for the Indiana Jones ride, one for the land as a whole, one for Cars Land. Like it was, it got a lot of people excited, but the meat on the bones and stuff just wasn't there. And I just think that you're going to get a lot of that, like potential ride names. People have been asking, what kind of vehicles are we going to be riding in Encanto? We might finally get an answer as to what those are, what they look like. More of the story for some of these attractions, especially Tropical Americas, because supposedly that land's going to debut next year. So it's as far as Walt Disney World goes, it's the closest one that's going to have anything for the people to go see and experience. I think that in terms of Monstropolis, I don't know. Like that one there seems to be moving along. We might finally find out what the show is going to be in what is that? The Glob Theater, I think it's called.
Right.
There's a quick service there that we have heard nothing about yet. We might get more details on that. Who knows? We might get a like an animatic of the ride through and part of the door coaster. I know they did that with Slinky Dog before Toys Land or Toy Story opened in Hollywood Studios. They actually had an animated video to show what that roller coaster was what it was going to be like. You might get to see some of that a little bit more with the door coaster, and then of course Magic Kingdom. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a model of Piston Peak on the show floor at D23 this year. Just to give people a little better idea of what's coming there. I just feel like they haven't really given us a lot yet. It was a very cartoony map of what Piston Peak was going to look like. You get some idea of what the layout of that big e-ticket ride is going to be, but again, there's a lot more they could tell us, and I think we're going to get a little bit more with Piston Peak this time, and maybe what that second ride supposedly is going to be if they're still building one for that. More of a spinner ride, I would imagine. Now, as far as Villains Land, I still, aside from maybe getting a better idea of what the rides might be, I still think that one is far enough off.
Yeah.
I just see like the next D23, that to me being the big event to showcase Villains Land. Maybe have a model there for people to see, a lot more detail about that particular section that they're adding to Magic Kingdom. And I don't know, like as far as new stuff, they're doing so much now that's debuting over the next 3 years, 4 years. The only thing I could maybe see them discussing, if you're asking me for a slim chance of something being talked about that we haven't heard anything about yet, maybe some of that would be, because I personally feel that they are not done with Animal Kingdom. If they want to profit as much as they can from that park, I do believe that at some point in time there is going to be more added to that park, because even with bringing back Tropical Americas, that section of the park back with 3 rides, it's still 3 rides.
Yeah.
And I know, Jared, I've seen you talk about this, where people that are ride people, there's not a lot to do in that park. There are people that love to go on Expedition Everest. They love to go on the Flight of Passage, and then of course when these new rides open, I'm certain they're going to really want to go on the Indiana Jones ride, the Encanto ride, and whatnot. But still, the original mission of the park was centered around animals, endangered species, and whatnot. But I definitely do not think if they announce, hey, there's still a future here, we still have some more to do, I do not believe any of it's going to be animal based. I just think they're going to add. Harambe needs another ride. Harambe at night.
Pandora proved that too, with the attendance being number 2 to Magic Kingdom when that was newer. It did show you like that's what draws people to even that park is new attractions.
Well, I think the one thing missing really from Animal Kingdom is something to keep it open later. Yeah. Remember, they had Rivers of Light there, which was part of that nighttime entertainment program that they infused into the park in the lead up to the opening of Avatar, World of Pandora. We did see umbrellas being set up in that amphitheater, the same one with kite-tails and so forth. You got to think they're not putting anything into that theater. They don't have to. I thought it was kind of weird that we were getting umbrellas in the area. Is maybe that the lead up to something to round out maybe the entertainment that they have going on in that park in the lead up to the opening of this Tropical America section.
Speaking of that, if they were going to announce anything new, I could see some sort of announcement about a nighttime show at Animal Kingdom that coincides when they open Tropical Americas. I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my prediction would be for the next D23, because I agree with you, Joe. I don't think they're going to give you a lot about Villains Land, because that's still the furthest away. I actually don't think they're going to give a lot about the Cars area either, because that's also it's further out than the first 2 that are going to open. So I think those are going to be their first focus. I'm not going to be shocked at the next D23 when it's getting close to Villains Land, they renew a lot more stuff that they also announce as when they're going to do the in-park hotel that originally was going to be part of the plans for Villains Land. If you guys remember that whole thing they were talking about, wouldn't be shocked they announce the next thing they're going to do is after Villains Land have a hotel. Maybe it's a Villains Hotel that is part of an in-park hotel attached to Magic Kingdom. That would be the next one, though.
Don't they want substantial portions of Tropical Americas to be open in 2027? If that is the case, and these things only run every other year, then this is the expo that they must bring out the stuff where Animal Kingdom connect to that land, right?
You would think. Well, I think they're going to open it in sections, though. But I think it still opens majority of it. I guess. I would assume the Indiana Jones stuff would open first, because that's just a ride overlay, essentially.
I would assume so too, but. Even they like this stuff to open in the beginning of summer, right before summer. Mm-hmm. Expo usually happens in August. So still, even if we're 2 years away, we're still at a point where this is the last expo to meaningfully talk about at least Tropical America is really fair.
Right.
So that's kind of leads me to believe that we might get the most information maybe about that, considering all the other projects that they have on the slate.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, and I do agree with Seymour. I think outside of parks, I still think it's on the table. You could see something where maybe Disney announces they're buying Epic Games or a bigger partnership. That wouldn't shock me at all if that would be announced.
Well, and to Seymour's point, and I brought this up too with his with the video I did with Tones and him last night. We're all park fans here, and we all live pretty close to the parks. The majority of the general population, though, their gateway to Disney has nothing to do with the parks. Most people don't live in Southern California. Most people don't live in Central Florida. You know what I'm saying? So most people consume Disney through Disney Plus, through the movies and all that stuff. So the gaming, you know, so that's gonna be a big focus. I agree with Seymour. I think they're really going to push that stuff. And I'm actually very surprised. I've said it before. I'm actually very surprised at how focused Tomorrow is on that stuff. Because that was my big concern going into the Tomorrow CEO tenure was like, he's going to be super laser focused on parks and kind of let the other stuff kind of like be a little bit neglected. I'm glad that he's not neglecting the other stuff because I think the studio and all that stuff really is important. I said it before too. Disney doesn't make original attractions anymore. They don't make a Big Thunder or Matterhorn anymore. All of the stuff we're seeing here for Disney parks is all based on the studio IP. So they have to take care of that studio stuff. They have to. It's the nucleus, the heartbeat of the whole operation. So yeah, Seymour, I agree with you, man. They're gonna push that gaming stuff, Disney Plus stuff. It's gonna be really, really big, really, really big.
I'll say this too. Oh,
go ahead, Joe. No, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one more thing because of course, the closer you get to D23, the more wild the rumor mill starts to get with things. And I see that, and I'm just bringing this up because it makes me fascinated by these rumors. Somebody on TikTok had posted some rumor saying that because Neil Patrick Harris is going to be there, there's going to be an announcement about Figment because apparently he's a big Figment fan. I think at some point in time between now and 2032, the 50th anniversary of Epcot, there's a chance that ride could finally get up. Because I'll tell you what, of all the rides I go on, that's one of the rides to me that is not up to Disney standards in any way whatsoever.
It's terrible. It's a terrible ride. My kids didn't like it when they were in the age range to like it. They were just like, it's just, it's not.
Now, hang on a second. We've got to first do Muppets, and then we've got to first do Carousel of Progress, and then when we do all those kind of things, then we'll get to Journey into Imagination, the one that everybody. Yeah, it is kind of frustrating that all of these things have happened before even Journey into Imagination has taken place. Well, go ahead, Jabberwocky, please.
Go ahead, Jabber. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Jared, I don't know. You being an East Coaster as well, you don't think they're going to make any big Epcot announcements right now, right?
I was actually just getting ready to say the only thing I could see them potentially doing, and this would be like I guess a wild card one along the terms of refurb, is doing the original refurb they were going to do for Spaceship Earth that they were going to do in 2019 if they announce that. Because Spaceship Earth, if you're looking at refurbing everything, you're going to have to do Spaceship Earth at some point because I love Spaceship Earth, but it's not in the best shape. And there's definitely some things you can improve. So that is one. If they're going to do anything with Epcot, I think it would be Spaceship Earth. Outside that, I think they probably look at Epcot right now as like, we just redid that to whatever level you like that. But I don't think there's going to be a lot there necessarily, if I were to guess.
Well, let me ask you, Jabberwocky and Jared, because you guys are the Florida guys, and I didn't grow up with that park. I've only been to Walt Disney World one time. So, do you guys feel? Because a lot of fans bring up Figment, right? Is Figment something that like the normies care about though? Like I feel like the nerd community loves them, but like are families gonna like be drawn to that, or is he relevant for like the average person?
Not really. It is much more of a Disney fan thing. He's kind of the mascot of like the festivals, like Food and Wine, Festival of the Arts.
Yeah.
So like they're aware of him because of that, but I don't understand the love for Figment. It's never anything I was into, but I know that it has its fan base there. But you know, I think I agree with Joe. Eventually, between now and 10 years, they probably do something with Figment. I just don't think it's on the high priority list at this point. It's also an area of the park they don't really like. It's not a highly trafficked area of the park right now, and so it's just kind of like it can just sit there. And I just don't have the idea that it's like way up on the priority list for them. If I were to guess,
yeah. I agree. I just think timing wise, when you see how they're kind of like rolling through these parks right now, they start in Animal Kingdom, then they started stuff in with Monstropolis, and they're starting with Piston Peak, and then eventually they get to Villains Land. There's roll through all these, and like Jared said, they just finished doing updates to Epcot. Some of them I find very questionable, but
agreed.
It's one of these things where who knows? If they're rolling through like this, maybe timing wise, when you're now looking in 2032, hey, we really screwed up that, and the pandemic really helped Disney screw up the 50th for Magic Kingdom. The Magic Kingdom's 50th was embarrassing. I was just going to say it was embarrassing. And Josh tomorrow, I just don't see him being a parks guy. And knowing that, there's a core fan base that just adores Epcot, for what it was. There's a lot of upset people. Oh, it's not the same thing anymore. Maybe he, takes some of that and tries to give the fans something a lot more impressive in 2032 when you're ringing in Epcot's 50th. I expect, like what Jared said, I think Spaceship Earth, it wouldn't surprise me if that one still happens, that they give that a really, really, really good refurb. And it wouldn't shock me if they do something with Figment too.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think, right? That things are changing a little bit. Now we've gotten serious investment into Disney's Hollywood Studios, into Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom at the same time, and which is really odd to do it that way, because usually it was a little bit more cyclical. But now maybe the focus does turn to Epcot. I'm not saying for this D23 necessarily, right, but you do remember when they brought the meet and greet, that did kind of reinvigorate a little bit of interest, just a little bit. When they brought out that popcorn bucket, obviously you had tremendous fervor for that. But we are generations removed, maybe a couple generations removed, from having a very relevant Figment-oriented ride. The guy that actually was responsible for the current version of Journey into Imagination, is now retiring. So maybe the impediments that were previously there don't exist anymore. And maybe it is time to look at this and say, okay, maybe we do something about this. And to your point, Jared, there does seem to be a little bit of a rehabilitation effort going on in various distinct parts of Walt Disney World. And that might also be a holdover from the 50th and some of those plans. We heard many of those plans, right? We heard a lot of rumors for a lot of years. Well, now we are getting that Carousel of Progress update that we heard that was going to be part of the 50th anniversary. We are getting some repainting jobs and all of that. So maybe they're looking at distinct areas and saying, okay, what is in most need right now? Maybe that includes Spaceship Earth. Maybe that includes Journey into Imagination. It is kind of interesting how much has changed since even the last D23 Expo regarding this whole thing. But Jared, I want to go ahead and... So you mentioned the Haunted Mansion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that they did redo the exterior, which if you look at the revitalized exterior of the Haunted Mansion, they did go 1970s with it, which is good.
Yeah.
The other thing they did, though, was they went a little bit more fantasy with it as well. A little bit more of the shading, a little bit more of the weathering and so forth, right? Those attributes might not be consistent for the rest of Liberty Square, however. Is there a possibility that the Haunted Mansion at the Magic Kingdom gets absorbed by Villains Land in a not too dissimilar fashion that the Matterhorn was absorbed from Tomorrowland to Fantasyland at Disneyland? And does that necessarily mean that Liberty Square's days are numbered?
Well, we've talked about before. I do think Liberty Square's days are numbered. That wouldn't shock me if that were to happen. Because I think if you look at those planes, I think it's a really good chance as part of that expansion that they have for the cars area that you do get that Haunted Mansion parlor that they had in the theme bar. Like they've been doing those. It wouldn't shock me. And now them announcing that right now of getting rid of like Hall of Presidents and Liberty Square, are they ready for the fervor of anger that they would get from that after just shutting down the rivers? Because there would be, I mean, I think they do it at some point, but man, if they would do it right now, whew, I don't know. Especially America's 50th anniversary this year, that would be horrible optics. Like horrible optics. If you were like, happy 4th, 250 years, and we're getting rid of all this. Like, I think it probably will happen. I agree with you, but I don't know about this year. I don't know. And I say that and they'll probably do it. But man, if they do that, they are gonna get they're gonna get a lot of feedback. We'll just say.
Well, because Disney World has gone through so much like change. I mean, look at this. Look at all the change between the Rivers of America and all the stuff Muppets, and then to add one more thing. I mean, that's a lot. And look, I'm a change guy. I am. I like change. I like these places to evolve, but you can't shock the system though. You gotta ease that in a little bit, right?
Well, Vash, what's that list you had a couple weeks ago about all the things that have changed the past 10 years? It was long.
It was a very long one, and let me see if I can actually get it up.
Like when he read it off, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot about some of those." Like it's just so much. They're throwing so many changes at you, you can't even keep up with it.
It is a stunning amount of changes within the last 10 years that Magic Kingdom or Walt Disney World fans have had to endure. And so when I look at everything through the lens of that, and you look at maybe perhaps the level of investment that's gone on around Magic Kingdom, there really hasn't been all that much set aside for Liberty Square, which was a little bit interesting because you would have thought that they would have at least incorporated Liberty Square into their plans for the 250th, and yet we didn't see that either. So what does that mean for the future of that particular area right there? It might not be good things. They might be looking at it, kicking the tires and saying, is this story consistent with the other fantastical, or I should say IP-laden adventures that they plan for Frontierland and various areas for the west side of Magic Kingdom? To me, it just kind of seems that, they might be looking at that and going, well, this was part of a bygone era that has passed us. We don't have to worry about a bicentennial or even 250th anniversary celebration of the country anymore. Let's just move on from this now, especially in the lead up to maybe perhaps the Villains Land, right? If we are going to incorporate fully elements of Liberty Square like Haunted Mansion into a Villains Land, maybe it makes sense to dispose of all of Liberty Square now, which would be terrible. I don't want that to happen, but I think that's kind of where they're leaning, because we used to get, a couple of investments here or there, like the Muppets, for example, used to be incorporated into Liberty Square. We don't even have that anymore. Some of these exteriors need some rehab, and yet we haven't seen that necessarily happen. Columbia Harbor House's story doesn't even make sense without the river.
That's a good point.
And then if you take out Haunted Mansion, you are left with nothing at Liberty Square. So these are all the things that I'm like, I think we're going in this direction, right?
Yeah, well, and also they may not want to deal with the political issues that can arise with the Hall of Presidents. That could be something to look at, being like, we don't want to deal with it. Like, I think you're right. I hate that I think you're right, because we've had the same thoughts before about that. Here's the thing. I don't think they would get on stage and announce that, though.
No,
I think this would be the thing they did last time, where it's like, by the way,
yes,
going away. Peace, see you guys, and they would no way get on stage and say that, because I just think it would be the same reaction. Probably, I don't know. Would it be a more fervor about the rivers or about them getting rid of Liberty Square?
I think it would be. I think it would be because we have already the river, and now that it might even be worse because it's a build up, right?
Exactly.
But here's a couple different things I want to bring up. Vash said, "Kick the tires." Was that like a Cars Land joke?
It might be right. And they're saying Frontierland as well. It's really, you're charting your own frontier, so not a frontier land that existed in any time, space, or element or whatever. It's now kind of not literal, but philosophical, which is kind of interesting.
Exactly.
But you got to think, right? One of the reasons why we're thinking Haunted Mansion might also be incorporated is because these side structures that are part of these permits might indicate that they're redoing the queue to be on the other side of the Haunted Mansion facade, which, if that's the case, that's straight into Villains Land. But please go ahead, Jared. You were going to say.
Well, I was thinking okay, devil's advocate to getting rid of Liberty Square, at least right now. What if they made it where they, like you're saying, they changed the queue, but they kind of wall it off to become part of that end of Villain's Land, and then Liberty Square is like separated? That could be maybe what they do. Yeah. But I agree with you, though. It still doesn't make any sense because Frontierland doesn't make any sense anymore. And so you just have this weird island of historical America that's just sitting right there.
Actually,
yeah.
I have an idea. Sorry, I'm like what Mike Wazowski down here. I was thinking about this. I'm going to flip this the other way. Instead of like you were talking about the haunted mansion going more into Villain's Land.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have the haunted mansion, and then I don't know how many years ago that was, separate from the haunted mansion. Closer to that really bizarre intersection in there between Liberty Square, Frontierland, and Fantasyland. They built Memento Mori, the gift shop for haunted mansion. Sits away. What if this is a rumor I've heard about for years, but it's never come to fruition? They decide to take Columbia Harbor House, since it's a harbor house and there's really no river anymore. So you guys are right. It doesn't make sense. What if Columbia Harbor House was turned into a haunted mansion restaurant?
Oh,
yeah.
That's
a possibility.
Interesting. Now I want to actually. I'm not going to Mike Wazowski you, Joe, again, but I actually wanted to reference Kiki and Luca because he actually brings up a really good point here. He says we give Josh a lot of flack for the Blue Sky stuff, but a lot of that stuff actually came true. Big Thunder expansion, Villain's Land, the Dino Land replacement, and Kanto. Well, Coco happened in California, but I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, most of it did come true.
Yeah.
For what it's worth. I mean, it did.
Well, one thing you could see on that same timeline is, it seemed like every D23 before, there's always these rumors about like Wonders of Life, because there's been people walking through there, windows are open.
Yeah.
If they do an Epic Games type thing, you could see the Play Pavilion come back into play that involves Epic Games that you do in Epcot as well. That could be something you could do relatively, maybe. I mean, it'd be cheaper than a whole land to do something like that. That also wouldn't shock me if they did that. But to me, that's like that's smaller potatoes, in my opinion. I don't think it'd be a huge thing, which is why I think they might sneak that in if they're going for, like, if we don't have the big booms, we've got a whole bunch of little things we're going to add with refurbs and things. That could be part of it. But that always seems to pop up before every D23, which is Wonders of Life. They were walking through there. They're doing something with it. And still,
isn't there an Imagineering office next to Wonders of Life in that area, FCOP? I thought there was.
I think there is now.
Yeah. I thought there was. Anyway, you asked for that list there, Jared. I've got it right here. Within the last 10 years, Walt Disney Worlders have lost significant portions of Disney's Hollywood Studios, Maelstrom, Interventions, Illuminations, Reflections of Earth, Stitch's Great Escape, Alan's Energy Adventure, Great Movie Ride, Splash Mountain, Country Bear Jamboree, the original version, Vision 3D, It's Tough to Be a Bug, Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith, significant portions of Disney's Animal Kingdom, including Dinosaur, Carousel of Progress, Frontierland, Shootin' Arcade, Fort Langhorne, Liberty Bell, and Olivers of America. I say all this to say nothing is off the table.
Everybody. I agree.
Nothing is sacred. There are no sacred cows. All of that has been done away with effectively, at least at Walt Disney World.
Bash, you forgot one thing from your list, though.
Sure.
Bob Chapek's Dignity.
Apologize for not being the ally that you needed me to be.
Yes, in the last 10 years. Walt
Did
Disney
he ever
World
really have it, though, is the question, though.
That's true.
It's true. Now, what do you guys think, by the way? This is the last thing I'll say. Of this rumor coming out for Disneyland Paris as Tomorrowland, that they add in a Star Wars themed land to replace Autopia and various sections of Tomorrowland out there. I guess it would be Discoveryland for Disneyland Paris. I've been looking at this. I don't really see it myself, especially because Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, or a version of it, was on the list for the 3 lands to be added to Disney Adventure World, and it was replaced with Lion King.
Right.
I'm not really seeing Disney making meaningful investments into the Star Wars IP just yet. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I find it kind of interesting, though, right? Because we see that they're taking like concepts, like, for example, Cars Land at DCA. I mean, that's like a 12-acre land. It's pretty big, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to build a 4.5-acre version of it, Piston Peak, in Florida, right? So they're doing like kind of like a condensed version of that same IP. We're kind of seeing that also with Pandora in DCA. I mean, I think our Pandora will only be roughly 8 or 9 acres. I know the one in Florida is a few acres bigger. So they're kind of giving us a condensed version of that. Maybe that's kind of the direction they're going in, where it's like, okay, maybe we don't dedicate 12 to 15 acres on one IP. Maybe we do 6 or 7 or 5 or 6. So I can maybe kind of see it in a way. I mean, I don't know. Star Wars, you're right though, Vash. I mean, in terms of like, we haven't had a huge hit lately with that franchise, but in terms of like as the trends with the park division though has been going lately with their IPs and kind of like giving us these little bite-sized versions, so to speak, of these other of these IP. It could happen. It might happen. I don't know. And maybe that's a testing ground. Maybe they'll see like, okay, maybe the 15-acre Star Wars land was a little too big for this, but maybe a 6-acre one might be more like maybe will be better received.
The only thing about that is if they do that and it's actually a better than Galaxy's Edge that we have on both coasts, that immediately people are going to be like, what the crap, bring that over here. So where Star Wars is, I'd kind of be shocked if they did, to be quite honest.
There is that area between Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and Toontown, at least at Disneyland, that exists as a potential expansion plot for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Conceivably, if they do something maybe small scale, small enough to fit in that space, this is a testing ground to not only add something to Disneyland Paris, which I think hasn't received anything since the 90s, which is crazy to me. I mean, it's wild. But maybe perhaps providing that kind of like, okay, well, this was obviously a big hit internationally. Let's bring this home to Star Wars Galaxy's Edges, both at Disneyland and Walt Disney World. That's the only really way I can see it. Because I think they knew, and that's why they went with a completely different direction with Lion King, that the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge model didn't quite work out to their best expectations. So I think they're looking to rebrand when it comes to Star Wars parks going forward.
Yeah, I think we talked about this, or OG and I talked about this. I feel like Bob Chapek, he had made the decision at that time to basically rip out a lot of the, what would have given that land like its heartbeat, like it's soul, make it feel like it's more alive. There were supposed to be roaming characters, or, Bob Iger stood up on that stage and said, it's going to be an active spaceport. Well, it couldn't be any more farther from an active spaceport. When you walk into that land, it just feels like, it's like, where the heck did everybody that, works here go? you can hear hear them.
Yeah, they decided to put it in a Star Cruiser. Is what they decided to do. All those things that they said they were going to do, they're like, actually, let's tuck this into a $5,000 hotel stay. Oops, that didn't work.
I actually like what OG was kind of saying. I don't like copycat lands. I'm not a big fan of that. It doesn't bother me that we're getting like a 4.5 acre Piston Peak, because for one thing, it's not. You guys have Cars Land. I mean, you have places to eat. You have 3 rides total, I think. That Cars Land ride it's exceptional. The fact that we're getting something wildly different, I love that. I love that it's different. And to Vash's list, I'll be honest. I only ever started going to Disney in 2009, like right before New Fantasyland happened. And then after New Fantasyland, then you had to change to Disney Springs, Pandora, then you had to change to Hollywood Studio. It was just change after change after. That's kind of what I'm used to. I actually like seeing these places evolve and change. So I'm not going on, this ride for the 5,000th time that I know like X number of years from now, hey, they might redo this part of the park. And I guess you were talking about, was it Disneyland Paris, Adventure World? Is that what you were talking about, Vash? The lot of land is there?
Yeah, Disney Adventure World. Remember, they had a plan to bring a condensed version of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, I think omitting Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run with its facade, but with a version of Rise of Resistance for that third land. So the first one was Marvel, the second one was Frozen, the third one was supposed to be Star Wars. And then that came off of the list, mysteriously, and then they announced that Lion King was going to take its place. That's kind of...
I wouldn't mind a smaller version. I mean, if the attraction itself is really good, if Disney is not willing to put the money in to have live, actors, roaming about, or having, droids roaming about, or, creating kind of this like living story that's going on around you. If they're not willing to do that, then what's the point of building a 15-acre space where they just populate it with sound effects of ships that are taking off somewhere, even though you can never see any of them? I just don't. And again, I like the differences. I don't. If they made an exact copy of Galaxy's Edge and put that in that park, the exact same thing, that to me is one reason less why I want to go to that park. Because I could do that here.
Yeah, and I think that's the compromise. I think because I think the diehard fans like ourselves, we all want the no IP original attraction stuff, right? Like the haunted mansions, the pirates, all that stuff. Disney's like, well, okay, let's not get crazy, right? We're gonna have our IP in there, but
Absolutely.
right. But what we'll do is we'll compromise with you guys. We'll do an original. We'll do the IP, but we'll do original concepts around these IPs. So we won't clone stuff verbatim. We'll give you originality, but it's still going to be IP.
Well, and then you get the worst compromise of all, which is Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which is, well, it's going to feel like Star Wars, but not really, not fully. It's going to leave out a couple of things there.
Yeah.
Which I think if they were going to do an iteration of Star Wars for the modern era, it might be closer to the familiar rather than the unfamiliar that Star Wars Galaxy's Edge gave us. So that's why I really very much doubt they would give anything like Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, size, scope, whatever, for Disneyland Paris' Discoveryland. What's most likely going to be, if they do go forward with something like this, something far smaller scale, but connected to what is familiar, maybe Mandalorian Grogu, maybe original trilogy kind of era stuff, but something that's wholly different. And we kind of see that a little bit with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge currently, right? They've at least Disneyland, they've shifted it. And I think they'll continue to shift further.
Well,
so are
the
you
original
saying
trilogy? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so you're saying they're going to do an Acolyte Land? Is that what you're saying, Vash?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what
Land,
he's saying. That's
the
exactly
power of one.
The power of one. You're like, oh, I feel like I'm there. It's terrible in here.
The power of many.
But Vash, I think you're onto something with that, man, because the Mandoverse, as they call it, right, is basically the OT era. It doesn't take too much. It doesn't take place too much longer after what Return of the Jedi, if I'm not mistaken.
Not too long, yeah, like 5 years, something like that. And
so
we saw that with Smuggler's Run, right?
Exactly. So they could do OT with Mando. I could see them. That would be probably the era for sure.
It's like the great value version of the OT, though. It's just like, it's kind of there a little, somewhat. The packaging's not very good, though.
In spirit, in the Force, it's there, right?
Right.
No.
Right. Yeah. By the way, I could see them announce them doing to Disney World's Galaxy's Edge what they did to Disneyland at D23.
Yes.
Yeah.
That I could see them announcing because they're going to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
The music makes a huge difference in that land. I mean, if they just did that music alone, I mean, they theoretically wouldn't have to really add anything else. The music just adds another. I mean, how do you have a Star Wars land without the Star Wars music? It makes no sense to me.
It's
the music is a character.
The most basic thing you could do is to do that, and you're like, you didn't even do that. Like out of all the things you did in it, But
there was a custom score that was scored by John Williams that you never hear that they put in. That's the John Williams music.
You're supposed to put in your AirPods and walk around the land with the music in there, and that's your music. That's
there you go.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, if John Williams made me a theme song, I would be walking around with speakers on my shoulders.
Absolutely. Boombox in every room. Yeah, I completely agree. But we'll see what D23 brings. That'd be well, of course, we'll do a recap of whatever they do announce. And I know OG is going to be there with some like theme park conductor and some other guys are going to be there. So I will see if we can get some, on the ground coverage of what's going on there. But listen, John's really upset about this thumbnail. I'm sorry if you don't have the budget for Spider-Man outfits, but we took that picture. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like,
we all lined up.
And,
well, Jared called me. He's like, "Hey, we need you to be in studio. We need you to, get on the costume." He shipped it to me overnight for that specific thumbnail. It happened.
Listen, these things happen.
Well, and I mean, John, to be fair, I mean, I'm just glad your profile pic is not AI, you know? So that's
I am too. And listen, John, if you're really upset, I'm sure there's a box of Kleenex nearby. You can handle it, man. It'll be okay. You'll get through it. It's only Tuesday. It'll be fine. No deal. I know it's impressive to see some Spider-Man on your screen, but you know, like don't get upset about it. It's no big deal.
Hey, you know, I mean, those suits, I spent time trying to get into that.
It takes a little time. It's a little tough, yeah. And I didn't have any padding in mind. All right, I just wanted the real effect. You know, I couldn't climb on the walls, but other than that, you know, it was good.
Absolutely.
We'll see what they announce for D23, and it'll be very interesting. Maybe they'll wow us. I don't know. I'm going into it with like rather. They'll do some stuff. I'm not expecting much. Maybe they'll do more, but maybe they won't.
They'll wow us with wow. Look at what we're losing.
Wow. They should do the Owen Wilson. Wow, that's amazing. We do have a what?
Wow.
50,000
Vietnamese dong.
Well, look at this guy. How do you know that?
I pay for many things in Dong. All right, I always ask all the time. I'm sorry. Thank you, Longarua. Says with universal speed, I would laugh like actual hyena if Poke Park at IOA, I think it means Pokemon, finished construction and somehow Piston Peak still hasn't gone vertical yet. Yeah. You say that, there is going to be, I think these Epic Universe expansions that those permits just got approved, they're going to start on those soon. The coaster's going to be done quick. I actually think it's a legit possibility that Pokemon is done before Cars Land.
They are moving so fast. I mean, people are like, "What? You can see it being destroyed," and they're like, "We don't care. We want this down as soon as possible, up as soon as possible." There is a real possibility that Poke Park, you know, soars over Cars Land.
I was waiting. I'm a little disappointed, Vash. I gotta be honest, man. When you said that was Vietnamese dong, I thought we were gonna have B-roll of Vietnamese dollars.
It being printed and everything, like
right. Come on, bro.
I'll add it to the list of B-roll that I need. For sure.
Tomorrow for the live stream about the earnings report, you're just gonna have like live feed into the room of like, how did you get this, Vash? It's like, don't ask me questions you don't want the answers to. Like, that's fair. I don't want to know, but
I love it.
All right, let's move on to our last little thing we're going to talk about here, which I find this very interesting as to what is going on with this. And let me find my article that I had about this. I didn't have one. Hold on. Speak amongst yourselves. Let me find the story real quick.
Really, quite interesting stuff. Yeah, do make us B-roll king. Yeah, in prep for this show, that's what I was working on. All that Spider-Man roll and maybe some other stuff as well.
I love it. Yeah, we got a very interesting next couple of weeks, man. Like this D23, we're gonna hear. It's gonna be very interesting to hear like the details for these existing projects and the direction they go with all this stuff. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
What do you guys?
I can't.
Okay.
I was going to say I can't wait for all the content that you guys put out. It is just going to be a tsunami of content, just day after day of new show, new episode. It is going to be so much fun.
Oh yeah. Do you guys?
I agree with Remy D here. We need a proper frozen land in the States. I'm surprised they haven't done it yet. Like in Arendelle, they would make so much money. I'm shocked they haven't done it yet. To be quite honest. All right, I found my story here. Were you going to say something, Bash?
Well, maybe we should hold off on that because it's a larger. Well, I guess it's a good transition into this. Perhaps, you know, what do you guys predict for tomorrow's earnings call? Now, obviously, this is going to be a huge story of that day. But please go ahead, set it up, Jared, and maybe we can get predictions around after this story.
We'll throw that in there with that because that's a good that is a good idea there. So there's some interesting things we talked about with Josh tomorrow coming in as CEO. Was he gonna make some big moves right off the bat, and then not a ton of stuff right off the bat, but we are seeing some smaller changes. Obviously, Disney World president's changed. Thomas Masloom's head of the experiences division. Certain people being retired early that I don't think that was actually them wanting to retire early, but that's happened. And then a lot of stuff's been talked about over the years, and Bob Iger never did it, which is spinning off some of these linear assets that are just depreciating. OG's called it a melting ice cube. They're not going to go up in value anytime soon. So a lot of people have been wondering, does Disney pull the trigger on this? And we might have, at least in my opinion, this may be the first sign of something, is that Disney is selling their A&E global media stake to Hearst. And I think it's for like $2 billion or something, maybe $1 billion, somewhere around there in cash. Okay. So do you guys think that in, say, the coming 2 years, Disney starts shedding a lot of these linear media assets? As I think it could be a change of, like, Bob Iger, I think it could be a generational thing where he came up in that type of world. So like he has a lot more of nostalgia, maybe a little bit more of a view on it, versus tomorrow coming in a little younger, views these things very differently and decides to get the company leaner and more focused. Cause that's also what Josh has been saying, like Disney One and all this stuff. And I don't know how much the linear assets really are, quote, Disney first. Do we see more of this?
I think you do. And I think you bring up a great point, Jared, in that Bob Iger came from ABC. That's how he started at Disney, was from when Michael Eisner purchased Cap Cities ABC in the mid-90s. That's how they inherited Bob Iger. He started as a weatherman over there at ABC and all that stuff, and he worked his way up, right? And then he eventually became CEO of Disney. Bob Iger has history with linear TV, network television. I think there was a definite effort on his part to kind of cling to that, right? Because, I mean, he has a lot of personal stuff tied to that. Josh D'Amaro is a young dude. He's in what, like his mid-50s? He didn't come from television like Bob did. He's not as invested like Bob is. Marry that with the fact that, like, it's a melting ice cube. I could see them getting rid of some stuff. I could absolutely see it. You know, maybe not all of it, but unloading more than what we're seeing now. Yeah.
You heard. Okay, Jabberwocky, please go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, Bosh, because I know you're going to have like 10 times more things to say about this than me. I don't follow this stuff as closely, but if you just look at it from a logical perspective, I don't understand why the company would want to continue trying to, bring linear along, because to me, it's not a growth opportunity anymore. That type of entertainment. It's not anything that, to me, that's really growing. And I agree completely. OG, I think there was some sentimentality there with Bob Iger, because that's where he got his start. It's funny that you say, I know a fan site out there that most of the members on the fan site, they hate Bob Iger, and they actually jokingly call him the weatherman. They don't even call him by his actual name. They refer to him as the weatherman.
Side subject. What's this website you're talking about? I'm just curious about it. I might go join it.
Oh, it's WDW Magic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just curious. Go on. I was just curious.
Jared is not the biggest Bob Iger fan. So
I was the president of the club before anybody else decided to join in. Everyone's like, Jared's crazy when Bob Iger comes back, and I'm like, he's not going to do anything. He did get rid of hotel parking fees. Outside of that, he did nothing because he was in charge and Bob Chapek was there. Sorry, rant over. Go on. My apologies. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I mean, I don't have a lot more to add to it. I just don't see it as something that's worthwhile to continue investing in. It's just, to me, it's nothing. It's older media, and I just think that its time is slowly coming. And it wouldn't surprise me now with Josh D'Amaro in place. Now, is Bob still hanging around?
Bob is
still. He's got his golden cardigan around. He's still there.
He's still under contract. I think he's on the board as well. He's still under, he's still on Disney's payroll, so he's still there.
Until December, right? I believe, Vash?
I do believe so, yeah. Until that golden cardigan gets hoisted up in the rafters at the Honda Center for his Legends Award.
Don't forget the Bob Iger Excellence Award that they're going to premiere this year as well. It's another
That's true. That's true. Got to have that in the Bob Iger building and everything else.
Yeah.
It's amazing. No, well, remember Bob Iger floated the idea, right, of maybe that ABC and the other television assets, the linear assets, not being part of core. I think is what he said. And he got a lot of pushback from that, from the media intelligentsia and everybody else. So we backed off on that. But even back then, Bob Iger, during his second reign, was floating the idea of possibly sidelining those elements. We just saw Brian Roberts, right, completely hack off all entertainment from Comcast. And clearly they didn't feel that was part of the core of Comcast's business. Fair enough. When Thomas Moslem and everybody else were being assigned by Josh Giamaro, making his moves as CEO, one of the very interesting appointments was Deborah O'Connell to be head of Disney Entertainment Television. I thought, here's a no-nonsense gal that is probably used to making very cutthroat decisions being placed in the head of linear for Disney. And that told me we're going to be looking at some big financial changes here. And like you said, Jabberwocky, these aren't appreciating assets, these are depreciating assets. And does it make sense to retain them while they continue to depreciate in the hopes that you make as much money from them as possible? Or can you get at least a percentage of that money now by selling them while they're still valuable? Because here's the thing, you don't want to be waiting when they have lost all the value. Now you have to offload them.
And you're holding the bag.
Exactly. I think we're at that point now.
Yeah.
And they have just sold 50% of a stake in A&E, not the whole stake. So they're dipping their toes a little bit in there and seeing what the response is. But I do think they're moving towards this direction. Because like OG said, Bob, being the CEO, had a connection to ABC. Obviously, with a new CEO, that connection is no longer there. And I think you're going to have a much more critical eye towards whether or not these are valuable assets they should retain from people like Deborah O'Connell, from people like Josh Giamaro, and from people like Dana Walden. And I think they're going to make the cut-through decision finally to end that, because if, in fact, the future is on streaming, then you can at least maintain ABC or some of these other presences, but maybe get rid of your back-end infrastructure, the distribution type infrastructure that you require, and maybe maintain your production facilities and everything else.
Well, the reason that they hold on to it like they do is they do make ad revenue. It's depreciating ad revenue, but you're right, Vash. At some point, it's like if you go and sell these for whatever they're worth, maybe they are a couple of billion. It's kind of like a transaction where it's like, when people win the lottery, like, do you want the lump sum or do you want the yearly payments that you get? And you're just basically saying, like, give me the lump sum right now while it's worth something, because you're right. It's very much like a stock. If you hold it, and like, I've been there when you trade in the stocks, and you're like, no, it's going to come back, and it doesn't. And you're like, oh no. And you're just, at some point when you cut those losses, like, that's whenever you get those losses, when you actually sell. So I agree. I mean, you could make an argument that this has all should have happened years ago with the way everything's going. And you look at Comcast, who knows what they're going to do. I kind of think there's going to be some sort of merger or something with another cable provider that happens with Comcast, unless they completely transform their business. There's rumors of like data centers and stuff, but there really is no future in just linear. And if you are Disney, from an investor standpoint, they've been screaming about this for years, that they need to cut this stuff. And if they're looking to, the stock price is something they want up there. Undoubtedly, they've never been able to really, it kind of just says hovering right around that $100 mark for like a decade at this point. If they think the investors are going to like it, and it also gets them more focused, I could see that as a valid reason as to why they do it. If they think that the investors are then going to be like, okay, Disney's more focused, things like that. It also could depend on this earnings report and future ones, because, the parks are not super busy this summer. Now, Disney has the ability, and how much money the parks make for the company, they do have the ability, even with down attendance, to show more revenue. But if you're looking a little down on your attendance, selling some of these properties, maybe this is indication that they did this because there could be some softness in the parks. And this is when you would sell this to try and kind of like make up the difference in the short term, making more of a long-term move that at some point you're going to have to bite the bullet and do it.
Well, and I think Seymour brings up an interesting point here, because we're talking about like the melting ice cube and Paramount wanting to buy the entirety of WB. That is kind of that's a really good point. Like, that's kind of weird, right? To want the whole, like, all that linear stuff? Why would you want to take all that stuff on?
Well, I think they did that because Netflix wasn't, and they were just want to one up it. It would be my guess. I mean, I don't think it's a good move by them, but I think that's why they wanted it. By the way, I love Seymour, but I feel like if you went to like Seymour goes to the drive-thru and he's like, "What's the deal with Warner Brothers?" And you're like, "Well, huh? I'm just this is a Wendy's store." Like,
well, remember, Netflix is a more streamlined operation. That's why they were interested in the Warner Brothers IP and portfolio and library versus Paramount, Skydance. Much wider organization. I think they wanted to make the decision what to divest and what to invest on their own terms, which is why they wanted the whole package. I think that was the kind of the mentality going into all of that. My thing though is that I think I know during the question and answer portion of the earnings calls now, I think they have written questions that they submit first, and then now they read them. I do believe is how that is done currently, rather than the whole cold call structure they used to have before. Regardless, I would be shocked if a lot of these questions coming up in light of this new deal regarding A&E isn't on this very subject, because I think it's kind of crunch time right now. Where are we when it comes to a media entity? Are we in streaming? Are we in linear? Are we in cable? What are we doing?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, go ahead, Joe.
If you, as someone who probably knows the least on this show right now about investing, so what would the expectation be if Disney were to say we are cutting loose all of our linear assets? Like, is the expectation that would boost the stock price? Because the stock price has been stuck like sub 100 for the longest time.
Outside of that spike under COVID. Yeah.
Like, is that expected to juice the stock back, to get back up again?
There's no guarantee of it. If you look at some of the, and I did more trading probably 3 years ago than I do right now. And I kind of more toward long-term investment stuff, but a lot of these investment outlets constantly are saying Disney needs to, like, they're even saying Disney needs to do what Comcast did and spin off the theme parks in their own company, because the parks make so much money and it essentially subsidizes the rest of the company. So to them, I think their viewpoint is that they make it leaner, more focused, that this will make the company more profitable and things like that. There's no guarantee that it'll work or that's what will spike the price up. But I could see tomorrow, because we've talked about the difference between tomorrow and Iger. Tomorrow, I think, is much more aware of some of this extracurricular stuff like surrounding the company. I don't think Bob Iger was on X really trying to get the vibe of what's going on with the Disney brand as much as he was probably just relying on people to tell him stuff. I feel like tomorrow might be a little bit more hands-on, maybe. So if you're looking at it from that perspective and want to make it leaner, more focused, that could resonate with shareholders and investors. If it happens, who knows? I mean, that's such a weird thing about Disney stock, is like, it's just, no matter what happens, it just stays around that $100 mark and they can't get it to budge.
I know.
And at some point, I mean, it's been one of the worst performing stocks of the past decade in terms of just like wanting money back on your investment. So I don't know if it would. I just know that Wall Street has been screaming about this for years. And I think you could make an argument. I don't think they're going to spin it off for various reasons. Like you were saying, OG, they got so much IP in the parks now. Like, how would that even work to do that?
Well, because then you're paying licensing fees now.
Right. And that would get real weird, and who knows how that would work. But you can make a really good argument spinning off some of this stuff after, buying Fox and everything like that. Like, I think it would be a good move. At some point, you're going to have to do some of this. So I don't know how. That would be very interesting to see how the investment world would react to it. But I think if they did have a down quarter, even if they announced they're spinning off some of this stuff, I still don't think investors would be like stoked on the stock necessarily at that point. But I don't know.
I think the only way that a spinoff would really meaningfully up the stock is if they had a buyer lined up as part of that spinoff, or maybe a buyer lined up for some of those assets. That's the really only thing I can see from all of that. I think there's like 8 local television stations that ABC owns right now. Do you necessarily need those? Like, I think there are some things that you can kind of take you can look at with the hairy eyeball, just kind of examine, like, does this fit core? Does this fit business? Is the amount of money that we're going to make while these things depreciate enough to justify holding on to these, especially when it comes to left holding the bag type scenario right there.
Right.
I think they're going to be looking at all of this, and man, it's just kind of a really interesting thing because I think for me personally, I get out while the getting's good.
Yeah.
But
well,
I can also see the ad revenue being part of the business that fuels other parts of the business. Go ahead,
yeah.
Angie.
Well, and here's the thing too, and Remy Demon brings up a great point here, where it makes more sense for Universal to spin things off. But see, here's the thing: Universal, they're doing it the smart way. They're not the Universal parks are not going to be their own company. The Universal parks will still be part of Universal Pictures and the studio stuff.
Yeah, it's still integrated with it.
Right. So they're doing it the right way. They're not putting the parks out there on their own company and their own little island over there. They're doing it. They're basically going to be a smaller version of Disney when all is said and done.
Yeah. Well, and I think that too, like they're different companies the way they're set up. So like, that's why when you talk about Disney and Universal, like obviously in the same space, but like it's kind of apples and oranges sometimes when you're talking about the corporate end, just how they have been set up. Going forward might be a little bit more apples to apples once they spin that off and you look at the performance there. But I do think even if investors don't respond great to it, I think this is a move at some point you can only kick the can down the road for so long with this.
Correct.
Before you got it. Like, because if not, I mean, eventually you kick the can, you're just kicking it into a wall and you're like, oops. And now you got nothing.
Yeah.
Just when you say linear, it's a very general term, but Disney is such a large company. What does linear, like, what all does it, I know ABC, but like, what else does that encompass when they say, oh, we're shedding linear? Like, what all would that be?
Like traditional, like cable, mostly the cable stuff. Like some of they don't own Bravo. I can't remember they own a ton of stuff. Like obviously the ABC stuff and
ABC, ESPN, FX, FXX, Disney Channel, Freeform, all those.
Yeah,
Jeez.
which is a lot of stuff you could put straight into streaming at this point. And I don't know if it hurt me, but it is the ad revenue. That's why they continually keep it, because I don't know what the number is off the top of my head, but they do get ad revenue from that still. But you could easily, like at this point, probably like, who's the big local TV thing? Not Charter, that owns all those local stations. I can't remember the name. Spectrum. A Spectrum would probably buy them up. That they would still want it, even though they're in a depreciating market, but there's still buyers for this stuff. But at some point there won't be buyers. So it's,
that's why I kind of think that like Seymour's point was actually, I think it makes a lot of sense though in the overall context, because like Hollywood is a changing landscape in general, and all these pieces are interconnected. Like the Paramount WB stuff will impact Disney too, and all this stuff, because these assets are being bought and sold off and changing everything, I'm very curious to see how it all shakes out. I really am, because I think that Disney is going to make some hard decisions here. It's kind of funny because DeMauro said he's a risk taker. Well, let's see.
Let's see.
Exactly.
Well, and speaking of the corporate side, this is also interesting. This came up today, right before you went live. Scott Gusson's reporting that Disney is restructuring its consumer products division, with most of the business moving from experiences to studios beginning in October, according to a memo from Experiences chairman Thomas Masloum and studio chairman Alan Bergman. In the memo, Disney says the restructuring is intended to better align its consumer products business with the Disney Entertainment Studios that create the films and shows that drive merchandise licensing. Now, this might sound familiar, because this is something good old Bob Chapek did initially that they undid, and now we're bringing it back. What do you guys think about this part and how this fits into the whole puzzle?
Well, this is interesting, right? Because I can see the argument to be made for both, right? Okay, Disney consumer products are based on the IP the studio creates. Okay, makes sense. I can also see, to be fair, okay, but the parks are what sell these products, so it would make sense to have them there. I like this move, though. I think it belongs with entertainment. I think that's the proper place where it should be. But what really stood out to me in this whole move is this gives Dana Walden, another notch in her belt, right? But for lack of a better analogy, I don't know, another notch in her pantsuit. This gives her even a little bit more power, because remember the gaming stuff, and Seymour has more detail on that because he's more of a gamer. But like, the gaming stuff was experiences too, and when DeMauro came in, that went over to Dana, and then now
biggest
the
gamer in the world, biggest gamer, Dana Wolf.
Huge, absolutely huge, and then now they're giving her consumer products. I mean, Dana's like, man, she's not technically co-CEO, but I mean, kind of basically she is. Let's be honest.
In some ways,
why do they keep moving stuff under her?
Under Dana?
Yeah,
that's a good question.
No,
Part of me
I'm not
wonders,
saying that. I'm not saying that to disparage her. I was just listening to you guys talk about this. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, the video games are moved. Now this is getting moved. I'm like, what is going? Is there some sort of progressive restructuring happening here?
I think there could be. Well, depends on how deep in the. Who knows? I mean, you could take the view of it's a chess match here because there has been speculation that Dana might backstab Josh. She wants that top spot, and I don't know if I trust Dana Wall. I don't know a whole lot about her, but something to do with that. Or it just could be trying to show, like, I think they want to get down to the fact that it's just like the cruise lines and the theme parks are kind of in their own division and everything else is in its own maybe. I mean, it is very interesting that JPEG did this, and this is one thing Bob Iger reversed, and now Josh is going back to it, which is interesting because we also wondered, is he going to do stuff that go against what Bob Iger would have done? And this is directly against what Bob Iger had done when he came back, too.
And
That's a good point.
To provide a little bit more context there, yeah, when Bob Chapek was officially made the head of Parks and Resorts back in the day, back in 2016, 2017, he then announced that consumer products would be absorbed by Parks and Resorts, making the Disney Parks Experiences and Products division, which is a mouthful. Then it got streamlined to Experiences. And largely because Chapek came from the consumer products. That's where he was from. He obviously had a lot to do about the vault back in the day. That was kind of his claim to fame right there. So, and one of the justifications was, hey, look, because the parks are where we sell the product, it makes sense that the consumer products, like OG was saying, be heavily aligned with the rest of the experiences unit. And they even said, hey, we created 700 unique items for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge upon its opening in 2019 that wouldn't have previously been possible had consumer products and Imagineering not worked as closely as they did. Now it's well, throw all that out. Now we're going to go ahead and, take consumer products and place it somewhere else. You got to think, too, Disney's licensing is found within consumer products.
Mm-hmm.
Also, their video games are found within consumer products. So perhaps this is consistent with this other idea that video games be separated out from experiences. Maybe perhaps that's also why consumer products was separated out the way it was as well. So it's a really kind of it's a fascinating development to have this happen. Again, I do agree with Jared. This was a Bob Iger era thing, certainly a Chapek era thing, but now that Chapek is gone and Bob Iger is going to be on the outs, do we create a structure that is not so experiences heavy, where everything is underneath it? I think that's where they're kind of streamlining, which is surprising because wasn't this one Disney?
Right.
Still curious.
Well, the one Disney thing though, I think is more. I could be mistaken though. I think it was more about the divisions talking to each other, working together to as one. What's the word for it? They're different pieces, but they all work together. Maybe, but not necessarily literally though. It
was kind of the '90s synergy term.
Yes, yes, like a flywheel kind of thing. But it is kind of interesting too, though. And this goes back to the Tomorrow thing. The parks guy is the guy removing stuff from the experiences division. Who would have thought that? Honestly, I would have thought the parks guy would be giving the parks division more power, but he's really not though.
Unless I wonder, okay, we speculate a little bit that maybe they have more of an investment or more something going on with Epic Games. Do they do this move that involves video games and consumer products because they're getting ready to do something else with Epic? Maybe
Bingo.
That's kind of what I think this could be set on the table for.
Yep, because they do talk about how licensing is going to be a big part of why this move was made, and you also got to think too. Thomas Muslim doesn't strike me as a consumer products guy, so why have this division right underneath his experiences unit doesn't quite make sense on that end either.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and I think too, like it's gonna be interesting because it's gonna mess with the revenue totals that they show for experiences.
Yes,
because they like to flaunt those numbers, but I'm not against them being more streamlined. And I think this does open up some interesting possibilities. Of course, the timing of this leading into D23, maybe it's coincidence. I just kind of think there's something else to this, that they're making a little move here to make a preemptive move to make a bigger move, maybe.
Earnings is tomorrow, by the way. So that's also the other thing that you have to keep in mind with this. Boy, are we... we are so far removed from the days of Bob Chapek getting up on that D23 Expo stage and bringing out the Target dog. I mean, wow, we are just, it's just a different era.
That was fantastic.
Now we got hair gel budgets.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, you know what? I don't want to dip too. I don't want to fly too close to the sun on that one. You know what I'm saying?
Or you're like, wait. Hair gel budgets are legit. Let's not go crazy.
Whoa. No, I will say this though. I do have like a little bit of a side quest, a little bit of a tangent with Target. I don't know how it is over there in Florida or where you are. But like out here, like my Target, everything is in like a glass case. I feel like I'm walking into Mission Breakout, dude. Like everything's in these glass that's
a Cali thing.
Yeah,
it's a Cali thing.
And you got to push the button. And then it takes them like 20 minutes to come over, and all I want is toothpaste, bro. That's all I want.
They lock up the toothpaste?
Yeah, it's crazy. Everything's in a freaking case now.
Dude, that's ridiculous.
Well, whenever it's not a felony below $900, I guess toothpaste is on the menu.
If your district attorney is not necessarily going to pursue theft under a certain amount, well.
That might be the ramifications. Yeah,
that would be it, right?
I walk in and I see toothpaste in a case. I'm like, I'm in the wrong part of town and I need to leave right now. OG looks good. We forgot to tell you guys, OG lives in Compton. This is why he likes rap. He's into the scene.
Yes, sir.
He immerses himself. Yeah. No, I can't say ours. I went to St. Louis. I did stop by a couple places that they had. I imagine toothpaste behind glass cases, but not here in Florida, at least where I'm at. I haven't seen it before. Outside of video games are in the glass cases. Outside of that.
Didn't Karen Bass say, I don't want to get too political. She said,
oh, man.
Never mind.
What did you say?
I was going to make a joke, but I don't. Yeah, no, we'll skip it.
Okay. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, we're getting off on a consumer products tangent here, but I think it is really interesting though that they're putting less emphasis on retail, and from the broader market, right? Especially brick and mortar retail. Disney has kind of pulled out of that in a big way with the old Disney stores and everything like that. And so from that end, it was kind of like, okay, well, maybe consumer products does belong in another unit like the experiences division. I just find it very surprising how now it's like, well, throw all that out. We're going to move this to a different unit.
It just seems like I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like they're really separating out parks and cruise line.
I think that's what they're trying to do. I mean,
yeah.
The D23, they're probably going to, and I think you had alluded to it, OG, they're going to have tons of cruise line announcements. I think they're going to have heavy investment because that is where they're looking to really expand. So maybe it's also moved for that as well.
We still need 4 liners that they've said that they're going to showcase, right? I think they want a fleet of 13 by 2033. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. So it's like we still need 4 cruise liners that we have no idea what will actually come of them. I know the Believe stuff might be past the show in terms of its showcase, which is kind of interesting, but okay. And then OLC obviously has its cruise line coming up as well, and I think they have an option on a second ship and so forth. So I think cruise line is going to be a big part of their portfolio going forward. I mean, imagine you can imagine that to be a point of emphasis for this experiences showcase.
And Masloom comes from the cruise line too, so
And that's why he got the job.
Right.
that's the emphasis they're going to place right there.
Does he have the Austrian accent?
A little bit.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why he's not leading this D23 Expo, because he would
Right.
that would be a very awkward emceeing event, I think, with him in charge.
I think Jared. I think you have an Austrian accent.
I can do. I come to D23. I can't do my problem is I can't do conversational Arnold. I can just do like the tidbits. Like my wife said, "Come on, Jimmy, let's go. Come on, Franco, come on, push it." That's all I can do. I can just do the yelling Arnold. I can't. Will Sasso, you guys know who Will Sasso is? He's a comedian. He does the best conversational Arnold I have ever heard. It's like Arnold talking, and it sounds just like him. But I
don't know, man. That's pretty fantastic. You sound exactly like him.
Pumping Iron of Arnold, just if you've never seen Pumping Iron, it's kind of a documentary. It's much more of like it's not all real, but Arnold in that is just unhinged, just going around like, "Oh, you look real small. Why are you so small? Come on." Your biceps look like they're lacking, Franco. And he just goes, he's just messing with Lou Ferrigno the entire movie. Like just messing with his head the whole time. It's great.
Now Tones is going to head out, but I wanted to get this before he leaves. With the success of Spider-Man and most likely Doomsday following, is the superhero fatigue discussion officially over with X-Men movies coming soon? What do you got to think about that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think one movie fixes a trend. It's a great thing to have. I love the movie. But they're going to have to prove that they can consistently do this over multiple movies.
Especially with such an established character as well, right?
Right.
If this was, hey, we're setting up some new MCU stuff, so we're bringing out a new character and it makes this tremendous amount of money, then it's like, okay, well, maybe some of this superhero-related fatigue might be sidelined. But OG is right, and I think, Jared, you said it as well. It's not really about fatigue related to one franchise, one IP, one industry or whatever. It's really just bad product fatigue, right? Whether it comes to Star Wars movies or Marvel movies or whatever, people are much more discerning now than they ever have been. People saw the footage coming out of Glasgow for the Spider-Man movie. They heard the good word of mouth. They heard the rumors. They wanted to go see it, and it's obviously one of the most popular characters in Marvel's portfolio. Yeah. So it made a lot of money.
And so is X-Men, by the way. X-Men is a really good chance because X-Men is right up there with Spider-Man in comic book sales, but they have to deliver on the X-Men characters and do it well. And there's also the rumor, by the way, that RDJ is going to eventually come back as Iron Man. So if that happens, and you've got X-Men and you got Spider-Man, you have the ingredients that could be really good. They're going to have to prove it. I
really thought after Endgame, they needed that. To me, is when they needed to take a break.
Yep.
Like I just felt like instead of slowing down a little bit to let everybody catch their breath, Feige and them just went full steam ahead. With more movies, and then of course Chapek was like, "We need as much content we can get on Disney Plus. Just start cranking out show after show after show." And I was like, this is not good anymore. This is turned into work. And it's too much to learn, too much to remember, too much interconnectivity. As we say, the normies, they are not gonna go for that. It just became way too oversaturated. And I think they should have stopped with the Avengers for a bit, taken a break. And then that to me is when they should have first started dabbling with X-Men. Like they just needed new characters, new stories, new, and they did it. And I just feel like they completely washed themselves out of that arena.
Yeah,
no, I agree with Jared. One movie, well, I mean, Deadpool Wolverine was pretty good, but having one movie like this, though, I'm not going to sit here and say that fatigue is over. I think they have to show, consistent, some consistency with their hits. And it's tough.
It is tough. I think if they, like to Tone's comment, like, okay, we're crushing it right now with Brand New Day. If Doomsday comes out and does numbers and gets well received, I think now we're moving in the right direction for sure. Are we there yet? maybe not, but I think we're definitely on the right path at least now, So
Yeah, and
we'll
the
see.
casting for X-Men that has been released thus far is pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll give it that. I agree. I think if you want to know what really resonates, Brand New Day and Daredevil's Netflix series, like seasons 1 and 2, that is seasons 1 and 2 of Daredevil's Netflix's Daredevil is the best adaptation of a comic I have ever seen. It is the best. It's so gritty. It's John Bernthal in season 2, his interaction with Daredevil. It's just magic. It's amazing. And this is why I can't watch the version on Disney Plus, because it's just nowhere near what they did on Netflix. It just the grittiness what they're able to do. So like some characters are grounded and they need to be grounded. Spider-Man's kind of a weird mix, but he's mostly grounded. Some of these other characters are more cosmic, but you got to know when to push it, when to pull it back. And I think they just thought, we're going to keep the gravy train going forever. And I remember telling my wife after Endgame, I'm like, they're going to keep going cosmic, and it's just going to get weird, and people are going to. And again, they tried the same thing they did in the comics with some of these side characters that nobody liked in the comics, and they thought, oh, it's going to work in the movies, and it didn't. And so they learned a hard lesson of like, oh, okay, we need to give people what they want, and really what they want are these. And I think if you have a good Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, a good Superman, a good Batman, these movies can still make money. But we've seen with Supergirl, nobody's asking for Supergirl. Made $124 million. I mean, Brand New Day probably beat it 3 hours into its opening when it beat Supergirl.
I think like one of the days from this past weekend, it literally made as much as Supergirl's entire run.
Yeah.
So that just proves, to you that in terms of comic book movie fatigue, it's still somewhat there, I think, because we've just been inundated with a lot of, mediocre films. But as soon as that prospect changes, right, as soon as the market is inundated with some great films, fatigue magically goes away.
Well, and you know what, Vash, it's an interesting point too. And I'm wondering also if we can even narrow it down even more, because
please,
maybe maybe there's superhero fatigue, but maybe it's not even superhero fatigue though. Maybe it's, do you guys feel that maybe it's just cinematic universe fatigue in a lot of ways, where like you were saying, Jabberwocky, we're like, this is homework, like maybe we love superhero movies, but man, I don't want to watch like 7 of them this year.
You can only go back to the well so many times. I mean, look, I can't blame Kevin Feige for maybe letting the success get to his head a little bit. I mean, for a while there, it was like $1 billion movie after $1 billion movie after $1 billion. It almost literally was like, almost no matter what they put out up to Endgame, it was almost guaranteed $1 billion or more dollars. But the thing that always bugged me about this with Disney, they bought, Star Wars, they bought Marvel, they milked those cows to death. And it's just like, where's some other content? Where's some other IP? Like you cannot build Disney Plus off of, 10 Star Wars shows and, 7 Marvel shows. You need some diversity. You need some different stuff. And they bought all that Fox stuff. And I'm just like, why is it every time I put on Disney Plus, I mean, all I'm seeing is, oh, here's another Star Wars show. Oh, here's a new Marvel character nobody's heard of that we're going to have to learn how this fits into the grander scheme of things. I was just like, that's like beating a dead horse with a dead horse. Yeah. I mean, it's
I love that.
They also got addicted to the tent pole, which because they're making billions, they didn't have the initiative to really develop anything else. But then you're seeing the problems now where it's like they have a hard time with original stuff in terms of the original, like especially animated side of getting that to hit. And now you're seeing like, oh, we didn't. It's kind of like having a baseball team without a good minor league system. You had nothing coming up, and so you just turned to free agency, and that typically isn't. I know the Dodgers have all the money in the world to spend, but that's typically not the way you build a team. But I think that there is a balance of this, and I would say one of the things that has lent Spider-Man to doing so well is because it is connected, but not really. It is a localized story of Spider-Man. There's not a whole lot of stuff in there that really pertains to anything else going on in that movie. Besides, like, there's obviously, of course, like some of the characters showing up are going to be in other things, but in that movie itself, it's not like they were setting up a Thanos, so they're trying to set up Doomsday. It was its own movie, and I do think they need to go back to that. You can have things interconnected, but not everything has to be a lead up to the next or the next post-credit scene about what Thanos is doing, which I think people got addicted to in many ways. And so interconnectivity is good, but you can go overboard with it, like you were saying, Joe, where it's like it's homework. And
yes,
I'm done with homework.
Yeah, no, and that's
Yep.
that's a great point. And big shout out, by the way, to Alan, Almighty Coasters.
What's
I
up,
love
Alan?
Alan, man. We actually had a great day at Universal Studios on Sunday. And we actually have a funny little meme going on right now, like who the F is Brianna? Because we had all kinds of issues with our express passes, and they kept sending us back and forth between the line and customer service, telling us to find this Brianna lady that no one knew who she was. So anyway, if anyone in the chat knows who Brianna is at
You guys see
Universal,
Brianna? Just going through the park yelling.
yeah, let us know, because we're still looking for her. But
You never found her?
no, but
That's just how they got rid of you. Like, go find Joe Bob. He's over there somewhere. He's good.
he's over there, you know. But the universe, Alan says the universe is okay to be interconnected, but the movies also need to be able to stand on their own. Exactly.
yes,
Yeah, I completely agree. And maybe they learned a tough lesson from this. I have a hard time thinking that I had a hard time thinking anything would top Endgame's money, and obviously Spider-Man did that. So, like, anything's possible. But I think the chances of an MCU being like it was is like a one-time thing. You can still have it. You're going to have moments that are good, but I just don't think you're going to get it. You're not going to strike lightning twice in that same way. I think they need to recast Captain America. Eventually going to recast like some of these things. And I think the problem they also got into is same they did in the comics. Oh, these characters are mantles. We can just pass them on to somebody else. Thor can be Lady Thor. All these things. No one ever has liked that. Captain America is Steve Rogers. Thor is Thor. Like, these characters are who they are. And I think they thought they could do this other way, and it didn't work. And they learned the hard way that it's not going to work that way. So hopefully they learn their lessons from this. Put them in their actual costumes. Cyclops looks awesome in the Doomsday trailer. Put them in their X-Men stuff. Put them in the things from the comics. Look at Wolverine in the yellow and Deadpool Wolverine. That was awesome. And I don't think Deadpool Wolverine was really a good movie, but it was a satisfactory movie in that you saw Wolverine full, like Wolverine.
Oh, yeah.
Full, just going nuts, rated R, Deadpool, same thing. And so, like, a lot of the ills of that movie you can overlook because of what you get to see in that. And I think, like, look at that yellow right there. That looks awesome. And Hugh Jackman's back on the roids and Jack. That's what I want out of him. I want all my superheroes on all the roids. Put them on everything. Put them on the Chris Hemsworth cocktail. Just get them all jacked and in their uniforms. And I will be, at least at that point, I'm going to come away being like, well, at least he was jacked. I'll give him that much. They got the costume. So
I'm telling you. Yeah, Tom Holland, though, he might have been on that cocktail, man. He was pretty
a little bit.
too, huh? A little bit, right?
That would be a really good question if he was. I think there's a chance he was on, like, say, TRT or some peptide. I don't know if he wasn't like bodybuilder like Hulk, but he was definitely thicker than he was in the other movies for sure.
Yeah, he wasn't gigantic or anything, but you could tell, man, that guy was hitting the gym big time.
His back, you can always tell. So, for instance, Chris Evans has never been on steroids, and I can tell you why. When you look at his side profile of Chris Evans, he doesn't have much like bulk in his chest or his back. He's kind of skinny. Chris Hemsworth, when he is in the Thor mode, you look at that guy from the side profile, that dude, he's on the rock cocktail. And it's fine. I would do the same thing. If I'm getting paid millions of dollars to play Thor, yeah, give me all the good stuff. Okay. And I think that, maybe Holland maybe he just worked really well. He's not a big guy. No. So smaller dudes can put on muscle pretty easily. So, he's always been in pretty good shape. So maybe it was that, but he definitely put on a little bit of size. So I appreciated that. But
I was going to say one thing, Jared, just real quick about these movies. The one thing that is interesting to me, this is just a thing, like my opinion on this. Once you started getting into the multiverse and you start getting different versions of these characters and stuff that exist in in other universes, sometimes I feel like that and then let's throw time travel in too. Mm-hmm. That starts to bring the stakes down.
100%
for the characters. I do not like that. I really do not. I understand sometimes they want to have a hook for a movie and we're gonna go back in time and we're gonna actually go into the first Avengers movie, while the action, we're gonna see things from different angles and all this kind of stuff. I understand how neat that could be. But when you start when they start doing everything with like this person exists. This is an anchor being that exists in every single universe within the multiverse. And I'm just like, well, what does that even mean anymore? It gets very.
Well, look at the entire lead up to Endgame was about the Infinity Stones. What's the first thing they did in the Loki show? The Infinity Stones mean nothing. They're just paperweights there. So you're like, okay, so now the stakes are completely gone off of what you built the entire thing off of. And this is the same problem that ran in the comics. Multiverse stuff eventually really runs its course. And it's got cool moments. Like you get the Spider-Man, you get all three of the Spider-Man, cool moments. But like when you really start thinking about the snap in Endgame, all of that starts breaking down. Because you're like, well, what happened to people that were flying in planes? Did they just reappear and fall from the sky? What happens to X-Plane? There's all sorts of like, and I would get into as well. I know Cap runs off with Peggy. I probably would too. It's Peggy Carter. I'm not going to blame Cap, but Cap wouldn't do that. That is not his character to do that. So whenever they made that move, I get why they did it, but I'm like, that's not something Captain America would do. So you get a lot of this weird stuff. And I think I agree. It lessens the stakes of what's going on because it's like Gamora. She dies and then, she's back, but it's a different Gamora. You're like, it's just cheap and lame at this point.
Well,
and even like the snap. So it's like, it does lessen the stakes of when somebody is gone. It's like, well, they're not really gone. They'll be back. Yeah. And it lessens like even Tony Stark's death because they could probably just find another Tony Stark from another universe, pop him in here and be like, oh, it's just different, Tony. It's kind of gimmicky. It always runs its course where you eventually have to reset. And that's, I think, where they're at now is realizing, okay, we got to reset. Kevin Feige even came out and said, this new, I think they're calling it phase 0 as this next phase is going to be simple, no multiverse like storytelling. That's what they should have did after Endgame, but they're doing it now. I think that is the way to go with this. I think Spider-Man shows you that. And all the multiverse stuff eventually really just, it gets tiresome at some point.
Well, I was actually into the DC show, The Flash, for a while.
That was a good show.
Yeah, it was good, but it kind of lost me though with all the Earth 1, Earth 2 stuff. That's where and that's kind of their version, I guess, of like a multiverse, so to speak. Yeah. And that's to your point, Jared. That's where I was like, oh man, I really dig this show, and I love the dude who played Flash. Was it Grant something? Grant Gustin, I think.
Who played the Flash? That was on the CW, right?
CW, yeah. He was great, man, and I love that show. But then they got into all this weird.
Grant Gustin, you were right. Yeah,
Grant Gustin, and then they got all into this weird alternate universe-y stuff. And I'm like, all right, I'm kind of done with this now.
Yeah, well, like I think a really good way they did it was Days of Future Past with X-Men. That is one of the best X-Men movies that's ever been out there. That's a great movie, and the way they handled that. So you'll get moments where it's cool. But it's the further you go down this, all the logic leads, and you're already having a bunch of, I mean, you're talking about superheroes and dudes that are, got claws out of their hands. You're already suspending disbelief as it is. So now I'm supposed to believe there's like 900 million of these characters roaming. I'm like, okay, it's just too much. Like, break it down simple, tell human-based stories. This is why people connected to the characters. And if you go a little out there, you gotta bring it back and show some restraint there. We'll see if they learn their lesson. Although I'm telling you right now, guys, it's going to get really weird with Doomsday and Secret Wars. I'm telling you right now, Battle World is a weird thing. It's super weird.
Crazy. Well, we'll see.
Doomsday is going to have a lot of narrative tie-in, very much like Infinity War in terms of the end of that movie. I'll put it that way. Like a lot of people are going to be like, "What?"
I'm still kind of blown away that we got Deadpool at DCA. That was really. I really enjoyed
it. Wild time.
Right? I actually enjoyed it. I feel like they did the humor. They kept his personality, but they didn't go raunchy. You know what I'm saying? Obviously they can't, but
like PG Deadpool.
Yeah, definitely. I think they balanced it out nicely. I mean, it's DCA. It's already like a secondary park. I mean, you can't put him in Disneyland, right? But I think for DCA, it's fine. But that was a crazy era, though, man. I was shocked when they actually put him in there. I was like, really? Yeah. Okay, we're doing this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, it's like Punisher in this movie. It's a PG-13 movie, so you don't have like the full Punisher, but he's still Punisher through and through. One of the best lines in the movie, they're talking about the villain, and he's like, "I'm gonna put her down," and he's like, "You going?" He's like, "I'm doing it," and you're like, "Frank," and Frank does what he says he's gonna do. So like, he's very much the Punisher. He's not like a neutered Punisher. You just don't see the stuff they typically show, like the prison the prison scene in the Netflix show. You don't have any of that going on for sure in this, but it's still really good.
Jared, did you see that Punisher, I guess for lack of a better term, movie, that new one that they just put out on Disney Plus? Is it called Last Kill or something?
Yeah, I did see that.
That was, it still it shocks me when I see a Disney movie that is that violent.
Yeah, the one thing I'm glad they did with Brand New Day with the Punisher was it wasn't this PTSD Punisher. I know he has PTSD. He has had the Punisher is the Punisher because of horrible things that have happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that entire thing was just like a therapy session for him. I'm like, I get it. We all get it. This is the character, but like, that's not why I'm watching the Punisher for PTSD stuff. So I was really glad to see them move past that. And I think many times they try and humanize him so much and focus on the trauma. And I'm like, it's there. That's part of the character, but like, that's not why you want to see the Punisher. You want to see the Punisher because he punishes people because of things that happen to him. And he wants to stop that from happening to other people. And he has a line in this movie where he says, you think this is a choice? This is a sentence. Like he looks at this as like a prison sentence of his own and what he has to do with what's left of his life. And so, yeah, it's a balance with Punisher. And I actually wouldn't be shocked if they try and go past. I don't think they like the Punisher character. I think they put it out there because it is popular and they don't necessarily like everything around that. But
no,
I hope
they don't like the Punisher. And that's the really unfortunate thing is that he's one of my favorite Marvel characters of all time. One of my favorite comic characters of all time. And yet it's just unfortunately the kind of Death Wish type Punisher I just don't think we're gonna get, which is really sad.
You kind of got it in Daredevil season 2. You got glimpses of it where it's like just full throttle, like him just like go like.
But that was before the full integration. But go ahead, please.
Right? No, like Bernthal is. I like John Bernthal, but he's John Bernthal in everything that he does. Let me tell you something. But like. Him as Punisher is great. I would love though to see the old school like tights with the white boots. I would love if they did. They probably will never do it, but that would be cool to see. But I agree. I love the Punisher. It's a he's not a hero, but he's not a villain. He's the definition of an anti-hero in many ways. But yeah, those can be complicated. You got to really know the character to write those stories well, and whoever helped write Spider-Man kind of understands Punisher. In the ways of like even he and Spidey's relationship in the movie, it's very similar to the comics where it's like they're friends, but Frank really doesn't have friends until like he does, but like he's not ever going to tell you that you're friends. He's just like, I'll do you a favor, but don't come asking me for a cup of sugar. Okay, I'm the Punisher sort of thing. That's how we operate.
Cup of sugar.
What do you need sugar for? Get out of here. Like that. But no, well, honestly, I could talk about this stuff for hours. We've already been going for almost 3, so we better wrap this up so we all got to get ready for the earnings report tomorrow. It's earnings report eve, and we all have things to talk about on that tomorrow. But this has been a lot of fun, and everybody in the chat, thank you guys for hanging out and contributing and conversating. And we actually have another super chat here. I missed. My apologies. There's a $1.99 from One Magical Spark. It says, kick ABC, invest in global ESPN sports domination. I mean, maybe they do kick ABC. That'd be really interesting if they did.
Yeah, that might be one impediment to selling ABC because of that contract for NFL rights. It might be contingent on them actually having an outlet like ABC, but that's just
isn't NFL part owner now of ESPN?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that probably is a little bit of an issue there. We also have a member message from One Magical Spark, maybe based on original trilogy. I think they may have been talking about Star Wars, which I would agree. Original trilogy would be the best way to base that, I think. But yeah, thank you guys in the chat, everybody that sent a super chat, member message, anything like that. Appreciate you guys so much. Before we get out of here, let's let everybody know where they can find all you guys. So Orange Grove 55, thank you for being here. And where can everybody find you? I didn't realize Bob Iger Excellence Award winner of 2026 is
there you go.
55.
There wow. Oh man, you know what? I'm honored. I'm honored. I got the gold cardigan in the closet. It's great.
Like the Masters where they come behind you and put it on you and they put the I got the cardigan.
Let's go. But I want to thank you guys. A great time. Jabberwocky, first time on a live. It was awesome talking shop with you, brother.
Absolutely.
Everybody in the
Thanks,
chat,
guys.
thank you so much. It was a really good show tonight. You can find me right here on YouTube talking theme park studio, and tomorrow corporate earnings. So that'll be very, very fun. Right here, Orange Grove 55, also on X and on Instagram.
Absolutely. And Mr. Vash Sky, thank you for being here as well. And well, first off, where's your sub count out at? Are you at 20,000 yet? And where can everybody find you?
No, I think it's 12-1, the last number I heard.
Okay.
So not quite 20,000, but I'm sure we'll get there sometime. Everybody can find me at Vashkai Parkcast, by the way, doing some amazing work there. Tomorrow, obviously, we're going to be covering that earnings call. The schedule, as I know it, and it's been relayed to me, is Valiant Renegade kicks off the coverage for the earnings call. Actually, listening to the call live. That's at 8 a.m. Eastern. Following Valiant Renegade is Midnight's Edge. Following Midnight's Edge is that Park Play starting at 2 p.m. Eastern for a 90-minute presentation, and then that's when Vashkai Parkcast begins its coverage at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, right there. So I wanted to go ahead and get everybody the schedule because it's a little bit, different from what we usually do, but we try to share the stage with our friends and everybody in the various spaces here on YouTube. So Jared, OG, Jabberwocky, thank you so much for having me on this amazing show.
Absolutely. Thanks as always for being here. And Jabberwocky, thanks, first time on the show. You were awesome. Thanks for being here. I know you don't have any social anything you want to leave everybody with. If they want to follow you to your house or your car. I don't know how you
So no, I do want to thank you though for having me on, Jared. This was fantastic. I loved it so much. And also a pleasure getting to chat with you, Vash, first time. I swear I could listen to him read a cereal box. I just love hearing him. Yeah, I know. Perfect voice. But yeah, people can mainly find me hanging out with OG on Orange Grove 55. I've done several shows on there with him now. Looking forward to doing some more. So much stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. This is just going to be a blast listening to everybody cover all this stuff. And mainly a lot of the stuff, the content I've done so far, a lot of it's parts based. That's what a lot of it will be, at least for now. Although, hey, I am up to doing I could talk about Marvel stuff for 5 hours.
Listen, we'll have you back to talk about some of these things because I'm the same way with Marvel. I could talk comic books and Marvel stuff. I don't know the most out of the world. I grew up reading X-Men and a little bit of Spider-Man. I was like X-Men, Superman guy, but yeah, I love breaking all that stuff down. It's a good time. But no, thank you for being here. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks, guys. This has been awesome.
Absolutely. And well, if you're not on this channel, you can find me at Cap the Magic. That's where you can find all my stuff. And then if you're looking for Universal Studios, Disney World information, like nitty gritty reviews and stuff, you can go check out CTM Podcast on YouTube with my wife and I. We've been doing that show for like 9 years. YouTube is actually newer for me in terms of what we're doing, but we did cross 18,000 subs this week. So that's nice. I was,
awesome.
I looked up and I was like, oh, okay, there it is. But I'm not like Vash. Like you do it long enough, you don't really check your metrics all the time, but when it popped up, I did get a notification. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm trying to be better. My wife says I'm terrible about celebrating milestones. So this is me celebrating milestones just to move on to the next one. That's kind of how my brain works. But no, it's been a lot of fun. And you will see a lot of us tomorrow talking about this stuff in depth with the earnings reports and all that good stuff. So we'll see a lot of you guys tomorrow on various channels and break all this stuff down. So thank you again, everybody, for hanging out. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And I will probably I'm going to do a live stream at least Friday. I'm going to start doing a Friday live stream. I think with Conductor is going to hop in there when he has the opportunity with me. But I do want to have a live stream breaking down Brand New Day. Maybe get like Tommy Toon. I know Tones is in there as well. If we could get OG to see the movie, but he'll see it like 3 years from now, and then we'll do a live stream and talk about it. It'll still be good. I'll still talk about it then. But you can look at that for me this week. And so that's gonna do it for the show. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you guys on the next one. See you guys.
Peace.